All right, there we go. Damn, sorry. I was talking this whole time, and you guys didn't hear a word I said. All right, well, story time. I have my leg up here on my desk on a bag of peas because I injured myself over the 4th of July weekend. Um, Sorry, I assumed, I assumed that you guys were hearing me this whole time, but I didn't realize I had my mic unmuted, but it was muted on the app on OBS. Okay, so story time, quick. If my position looks a little weird or whatever, and I'm hobbling around here, or if I got to make grunty noises, whatever, it's because I injured myself over the 4th of July weekend. Unfortunately, I right before the weekend started actually, so it made it even worse. But what happened was I was riding my electric scooter down to Hermosa Beach, and I just wasn't paying attention, remarkably, because I usually do. And I hit the curb right where the ramp kind of is not a ramp anymore for the sidewalk. You know, it kind of starts to become the curb. And it was just enough that the wheel couldn't go over it. And these are pretty big wheels. It's a pretty decent scooter. It's not like a Bird or a Lime or whatever else is out there. It's a nicer end one by Segway, 9bot, whatever. Anyway, yeah. So of course I go flying over the handle rails and kind of do a 360 with this with the scooter. And I know it was funny because I'm sure it was funny. But even people who were in a car that was at the stop sign watching me kill myself, they were like, "Are you okay?" They were like laughing as they're asking me. I'm like, I think so, but and I couldn't really stand on my leg. So I think I tore something. I'm pretty sure I tore something in my calf muscle, but thankfully my Achilles tendon's still attached. Everything's still intact. But I think there's a longitudinal, like vertical tear that happened. So I'm laid up. So I'm gonna get an ultrasound. I think like tomorrow or the day after. Gotta go see the doctor and just sort of figure out what the hell is going on in there. Because I can put my weight on it, but I can't do the whole normal step motion without excruciating pain shooting up toward the top of my calf, dead center, deep inside. So we'll see. Hopefully, I don't think anything's completely torn, ripped completely, but I think it was like a hyperextension that happened, and it really, really tore some fibers inside, but I don't think anything's completely retracted. But yeah, it was super painful, and it still is, but it doesn't hurt when I'm not moving or when I'm not putting a lot of pressure to flex it to walk. It's only if I try to do that it really hurts. So anyway, so I'm just I'm laid up. It was a weird 4th of July. It was like a really kind of bizarre 4th of July, right? But it was kind of lame. We didn't have any fireworks or anything really publicly, or event-wise. But at least around LA, people were just kind of like F you to the government, and they just they did their fireworks anyway. And normally I'm pretty annoyed by that if it's like in the residential areas, because it's definitely kind of dangerous. But seeing the footage, I mean, there wasn't a lot around me actually, but seeing the footage from around all of downtown and the sprawling of LA was pretty cool just to see. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Someone did like a Blade Runner, or they called it Blade Runner 2020, and they did like this drone cam shot of all the fireworks going off over LA. It was pretty cool. Check it out. They put Blade Runner music to it. It was pretty awesome. So anyway, yeah, it was a weird 4th of July. Kind of shitty for me in that sense, but oh well, such is life. Could be worse. I didn't break any bones. I got like scuffed up and that kind of stuff. That's why I was showing my arm earlier. Inadvertently I rolled horizontally onto my forearm and then onto my shoulder, and so all that got like cut up and bruised, but nothing broken. And that would have been the biggest fear. So I've only ever fractured my finger. I've actually never had any full-on broken bones yet. So thankfully. Anyway, okay, this is hilarious. Yeah. Jesus, it's mute. Laugh my off. I'm good. Okay, hope you're fine. Some more desk time for you. The universe is telling you to do the Last Guardian film. Yeah, man. Or Cupid and Psyche film, right? Yeah. Hey Daniel. Hey chat. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely, I've been off camera, off stream, everything. I've just been working a lot on getting the boys model kind of wrapped up and ready to go into Advanced Skeleton. Still doing a little tweaking. I had a friend of mine do his clothes, but I'm also then tweaking them and quadratifying them and editing them a bit to really get ready to be finalized and then, animation ready. So almost there with him, and the shield I'll probably work on a bit here too. But I wanted to kind of try to get further with this thing. As you can see, I was starting to do like kind of the circular arcing clouds. I'm still trying to figure out how to get this really to look the way I want. But yeah, so anyway. How was everybody's 4th of July? Everyone have fun? Anybody, excuse me, have any crazy stories to tell or injure themselves severely as I did? Let me know. I'm not even playing music here. All right, let's go. And Mr. Oakenfold is back with another great mix, which is what I'm listening to. And if anybody would like to listen along, since, as I've said before, I cannot share copyrighted music while I can't stream it, but you can listen to it on SoundCloud with me if you like. I'm around the 2 minute, and well, by the time you get it, there's a second delay, so maybe go for like 2:40 if you want to listen almost in real time. There you go. I guess the chat reaches you before my video probably does. I don't know if they sync up or not, but bruh, this is sick. Thank you. What is it? Flething? Oh, just trying to figure this out though. It's getting there. I'm getting happier as I add things to it, and I kind of sort of just kind of poop out initial concepts of what is in my head, and kind of trying to get it all to blend right. I'm getting happier with it. Sometimes you just got to let go of other areas and work on different sections and then get back to it. No, why am I doing this? Why? It's like, put that down. So yeah, did anybody have any exciting stories to tell? Is the final line going to be painted or monochromatic? I think the final print will be monochromatic, but we'll see. I mean, I might do some like little light. Or do you mean digitally or do you mean physically when I print it? Because I think digitally, I could easily probably paint it digitally, mess with it a little bit, but I'm more concerned about this how it will come out in reality. And physically, and that's where I might do a little light airbrushing, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to leave it mostly one material for the clouds and him, and then do some different things like down here. All the god rays that I'll add more variants to later will be clear, but I'll probably put some lightning bolts, so hollowed areas that will be like very specific channels, will be in the clouds internally and down by the god rays a little bit too. I think so that I have some really cool LEDs that are with little circuit boards that are synced up so they randomly flash lightning. So that'll be pretty cool. They'll fill in the channels, hopefully like, what they call like light pipes essentially, and it'll kind of, bounce all the light around so it looks like roots, like a lightning bolt. What's up with the cliffhanger? How did you injure yourself on the 4th? Oh, I didn't say. I thought I said. Physically, I had the displeasure of working on a painted model that just covered a lot of the sculpt. Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. Didn't want that to happen to you. Thanks, yeah. Yeah, I'm not, I'll be honest, I'm just not an experienced painter, so I'm not going to act like I can do as good a job as other people who have years of experience of painting really detailed sculptures. And even big companies, of course, because they do their stuff in China, or they have to do it in mass, so it doesn't get the same love and care that one person, a professional, would give a personal piece or a one-off or a prototype. So that being said, I'd be apprehensive to paint my stuff. I don't usually paint my stuff. Occasionally I do for some clients who, whenever it's like solid colors here, and here, and it's like a suit for a character or something that's doesn't need like tight finesse and detail. Refined painting, because for me it would just take so much longer and it wouldn't be worth my time, so I just don't I don't typically paint stuff. And this I think is pretty well suited to be not painted and just be solid material colors that really work to the advantage of the piece. So this will be the white, which is a beautiful kind of bone white color that Formlabs makes. And with LEDs inside, like I said, and the way I'm just thinking of having kind of like with the LEDs I have on the Matrix poster that I put together, I think having multiple strips of LEDs that are spiraling, almost like trailing, almost like shooting stars, kind of, or like spirits, you know, it's just kind of adding like, moving light essentially in the tunnel in this like chamber of clouds would be pretty cool. And then having LEDs inside for lightning, other ones that'll be really powerful, will look pretty cool. And probably like have one or two that chamber up to the eyes, so they kind of have like a straight shot to the eyes here, so that you'll see like random flashes of lightning kind of lighting up the eyes in unison together. So that'll be kind of cool. And they'll all be they'll have like different switches, so you can turn them all on, or just turn on like one or two, or just turn them all off. So that's the idea. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna paint it. So Attentive Slug. Attentive Slug, I guess, did I not say? I was riding my scooter down to Hermosa Beach, and I hit the curb next to the ramp on a sidewalk, and I kind of did a whole 360 with the scooter, and I put my arm in front of me, and so I rolled onto my forearm and then onto my shoulder. So I did a proper roll as far as like absorbing the hit. I actually instinctively did a pretty good maneuver as far as I didn't break any bones. I didn't do what you should never do, which is put your hand out like this, and then you either break your elbow and your forearms, and definitely break your wrists. And I'm right-handed too, so that would be terrible. Any wrist would be terrible, but man, that would suck. So thankfully, no broken bones. But I flipped over my scooter. And I wasn't even going that fast. It's always like the dumbest stuff, right? It's always the dumbest stuff that winds up injuring us. It's like, or someone would say, I don't know, they break their ankle, and you'd be like, ask how, and they're like, oh, I fell down the stairs, and it wasn't even like all the flight, it was like the last two or something, and they just did something awkward, and it's always some dumb crap like that. At least I wasn't mugged or anything, thank God. But yeah, it was crazy. There was like some chick driving a nice Beamer who saw me, and she kind of lowered her window and laughed as she saw it. She was like, are you okay? Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm sure it was funny, I'm sure it was hilarious to see me like freaking Charlie Brown, just like, woo! Just roll 360 and bam! And because I know when I got up, my scooter was first underneath me, and when I got up, it was over there. It like wrapped itself around the stop sign and then fell. It was, scooter's fine, no damage at all. But I rode it back actually. But man, did it hurt when I got up. I was just like, I snowboarded a couple times in the past. I haven't done it in a long time, but I remember the first kind of times I snowboarded, I would fall and I'd hit my tailbone or my back so hard at times because it was like an icy day, so it wasn't like smooth powder. So when you fell, it was like bam! It kind of felt like soft concrete. It really hurt, and the first time I fell, I was just like, oh, what did I break? It's like you have this shock go through your body, so you don't even like your body's kind of shocked to the point where you don't know if anything's broken or not yet. You're just kind of like dazed for a sec. And that was kind of how this was, because I just flipped on a brick sidewalk with concrete. It was just straight up rock. And, yeah, it was not fun. But at least I got good calcium in my bones. At least nothing broke. Because I really I probably could have and should have broken something at that point, how hard I hit everything. But, again, it wasn't going that fast, so it wasn't like getting launched from a car or something. I don't know. I find human beings, we're bizarrely resilient and fragile at the same time. It's like, it's kind of incredible what kind of things we can take, and then also just how frail we are when we're compared to harder materials. I don't know. It's such a duality with people. We're such a mixture of strength and weakness. So I was looking at the original cartoon again, the animation, the other day, hence why the record, the soundtrack is right there also. But yeah, and I'm just trying to think, like, I probably want to, I don't know, it's like I'm liking this in general where it's going, but I'm also thinking back to the cartoon and how I want to emulate it, and I'm just wondering how I can angle this, because reality is this will be on a desk somewhere and you're going to be looking down at it more like this, even though it'll be, probably about a foot and a half tall, maybe a little bit taller. I'm wondering if I should reduce these a bit and then reduce them to kind of make him look larger, and then also to allow an angle to be better seen, so they look like they're kind of, I don't know, because it's all about your, that's the unfortunate thing, is you can't dictate the exact angle someone's going to look at it, so it's like trying to think of the best way, I mean, it's not like I have a lot of options, but I don't know, I'm just going to try and shrink them down and see what happens. Experimentation. That's the pause. Right. Yeah, derp. I forgot. I thought you could manipulate. Or is that with the start? What is that? How does that work again? No, I guess you gotta do all. You gotta do the all, and then Control Shift Select. Alright, is that how it goes? Or is it Alt? What is it? How do you select the. There we go. Yeah. Battle Royale, anyone? That's kind of true. Really, we're frail because we were doing stupid things like flying in vehicles, going insane speeds, and driving crazily fast on the Earth. We're doing things our bodies are by themselves not designed to really do. But then again, even riding a horse or even just running at each other really hard can really severely injure yourself. I mean, you can run down a hill and kill yourself. It's like, I don't know. It just feels like riding around in vehicles can really very efficiently kill you. Hey, how are you doing today? How's everyone in the chat doing? Well, Dana, great work. Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, how is everybody doing, though? Did everyone have a good 4th of July? You guys get some barbecue in, or some hot dogs, or burgers, or whatever? I don't know, some unhealthy, fun food. It's like, barbecues are not meant to be healthy, right? I think barbecues are meant just to have, or whatever, I don't know, some unhealthy, fun food. It's like, barbecues are not meant to be healthy, right? I think barbecues are meant just to be fun, right? Just who cares about eating healthy all the time? You gotta cut loose now and then. Excuse me as I adjust my battered limb. I'll be letting out manly grunts of pain now and then. They're manly tears, I swear they're manly tears. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that skit by Key and Peele. Oh my god, it's hilarious. They're like two gangsters and they're talking about, one of them's reminiscing about his friend who they'd play like The Floor is Lava. And they'd play Care Bears together. Oh my god, it's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, look up that skit on YouTube. Freaking hysterical, I think. Oh shit, how did yeah, there we go. Alright. Anyway, stop talking, Daniel. Sculpt more, talk less. Alright, let's see what's going on here. Why is it doing that? There we go. Here's the challenge, because like Simba's perspective would be like down here, but a human's perspective will be somewhere like up here. So it's like, how do you play this? I think the original idea had like that trailing downward actually makes more sense. Because when viewed straight on, it works. Just have to mess with it. Excuse me. The coffee is making me burp. Oops. But yeah, the more I talk about the short that I'm putting together for The Last Guardian is like a Hail Mary, you know, try to save The Last Guardian feature film from becoming another piece of shit, you know, shill, just throwaway adaptation that'll be forgotten and berated forever after it's made. The more I think about what is, I'm just so pissed that it's not getting the respect it deserves, of course. But the more I think about it and just how fast this will be able to come together in the next few months, talk with friends of mine who are animators and just having all the motion capture for the kid pretty much done already, because I acted it all out myself and I have it all ready to go, and just learning about how to, because I've never done rigging before, but I'm learning all these techniques as I go. It's kind of like building your wings after you jump off of the ceiling, or off of the roof of some building. You figure it out as you come down, because this kind of feels like it's a race against time to really get this out the door and get some public sway and opinion on my side, as I just get it out there and let people help me petition Sony to be like, dude, this kid knows what he's doing. And that's what I always say, you can't pay someone to be passionate about something. No amount of money can ever make someone do a better job at something that requires heart, that requires love. You can't pay someone to love something, you know, or anyone. It doesn't work. And I feel like that's an invaluable, a notable and yet sort of unquantifiable variable in life, right? That having a love and an understanding of something and a respect for it is something that can't be bought. So you can pay all the writers you want, but you're not going to get the same quality, or at least the same love out of that as, you know. And you can get the formulas and you can do the whole thing, but I feel like there's still something that is like magic, or that's sort of spiritual element to creation when it's infused with love and a deep, you know, kind of reverence for something, as opposed to just a paycheck. Like, a lot of artists will do this, even in work, in some ways. It's not to the same level as, like, trying to create a whole story or adapt a story, but a lot of us will often work for free, sometimes out of guilt or pressure, you know, but a lot of times, too, it's because we love it. We love what we're doing, and it's not the money that's making us do it. It's pure emotion or pure passion. It's not even just emotion, but it's love, right? And it's something you can't buy, you know, not really. Because that's, again, it's something that's being given for free. It's being given out of someone's heart. And that's a whole other element. That's a whole other level of creative fire, you know, that can just, that's unmatched by a paycheck or by someone, an executive saying, do this, you know, or I want my, they want to, you know, freaking mushroom stamp stuff here and there, if you know what I'm saying. They just want to put their mark on stuff, and it's like, God, that's just, ugh. Yeah, it's, unless their mark is like Spielberg, it's like a Midas touch, right? It's that gold, where it's like in the original stuff, you know, we have the original Lucas and Spielberg films, you know, like, I mean, the Indiana Jones, great. See, the first three films, just, come on, perfection, just great action adventure movies. E.T., just all original Spielberg work. I just love it, you know. Look at Christopher Nolan's work, you know, it's you know, people find problems with it, but there's just so much consistent quality, you know, and there's a certain level that's just, they know how to make these fantastic blockbusters that just work on so many levels and appeal to so many people, and that's where I kind of find myself moving toward, as far as how I like to make a story and how I like to engineer it, in a sense. It's finding that kind of universal appeal and liking that, right, and really finding the right set of notes, right? How to crescendo something, how to ramp someone up from a novice to you know, understanding something. Like, that's why I loved Michael Crichton's work and his books. He would multidisciplinary, you know, approach something, bring all these different desperate ideas together, and you walk away being educated, entertained, thrilled, terrified. You have all the elements that any great adventure can give you, is like multiple genres wrapped into one. And yet you're also walking away with more knowledge in some ways. You're learning about DNA, even if it's just you're skimming it, but then that sparks that interest, and you go out to the library as a kid before the internet was really a thing, and you look up, you know, what is DNA? What is deoxyribose nucleic acid? Yeah, I can't talk. It's just, I don't know. There's those, and it's not just about being in science fiction, but I just think the idea, the notion of layered intelligence within a deeply emotional and emotionally intelligent story that's an art and a craft in and of itself that not a lot of directors can do, truly. And it's just a fact. You look around, like how many Spielbergs and Christopher Nolans and James Camerons are there? Not a lot. And there's other good directors, but I feel like they're kind of their own type, and there's just few. There's very few. Anyway, I know some people were like, dude, he likes to hear himself talk. Well, it's kind of a one-sided conversation. What's going on? Sorry, I'm neglecting the chat. Nice holiday weekend. So what you making? Greetings from... What is that, Bali? Bali, wow. Where's your corgi? My corgi is laying in my doorway. I can probably try to see if I can carry him over here later. So F04 engine, I'm making a Mufasa in the clouds from the Lion King, because this was the scene I was hired to work on that didn't make it into the Lion King movie. And so I'm kind of creating a variant spin on what was originally my idea for what sort of the penultimate moment in that scene would look like. So it's a merging of the original, having a lot of love for the original look, and then also, just sort of my own ideas kind of brought together. And I'm not happy with everything yet. I'm still going to be reworking some of the stuff here, but I'm just trying to block in some of the other big elements back here, like the ring of clouds that form around his, visage, essentially. By the way, do you think of how it's going to be printed when you're sculpting, like if one piece will be done separately and then keyed in? I mean, I don't think about that as much when I'm sculpting, because I've kind of created my own sort of set of rules where, I mean, if it comes about and I see that this something might be advantageous to do it that way, I might. But so often I've learned just to kind of, because live Boolean makes things so much easier now. You can just Boolean things together, subtract things from other Boolean pieces, and then create your keys out of that. I often just operate that way. So I often kind of think just sculpt with abandon. Sculpt without caring about the engineering side so much. Excuse me. And then make it like the Steve Jobs approach, right? Like, this is my vision, then just make it work. Figure it out. So that's kind of how I want to do it, because I don't like having the engineering side of things really dictate too much. And if there's certain things that wind up being a restriction, I just sort of try to compensate for them by whatever means I can without degrading the quality of the sculpture. In that case, what I'm saying is here, I have a certain size in mind for the overall piece, but then when I got the LEDs that I ordered, I realized that they were kind of oversized LEDs. So they're like the size of my pinky, which is a pretty hefty size LED. So it's a bit bigger, but that's great because it's really powerful and it's really bright. So what I'm going to do is probably either enlarge the whole sculpture a little bit, or just work around the size of those and just compensate for them by figuring out how to install them. And this will obviously be at least two, more than two pieces, but two different materials. So, that means that this will key into this in some way. But it's going to have to be a smooth way of doing it. So I'm probably going to have like the bumps of the clouds. So if I just hide this a second. Yeah, wrong one. Come on. There we go. So I'll probably use a little bit more kind of like, I forget what these called. No, what are these things called? They're Mamantis clouds. So that's this kind of storm cloud shape. I mean, I'm not a meteorologist, but Mamantis clouds have these really weird, cool, puffy, creepy, beautiful kind of shapes. So I'm probably going to do some more of that down here, to kind of lock it into in a very gentle, but like have enough little bulges that will insert into the clear piece below, and use that as a way to kind of key in the one material into the clear material. Yeah, so anyway, sorry, long-winded answer to your question. I don't really think about segmentation so much when it comes to sculpting. I just want to create a beautiful work of art first, and then reverse engineer the technical part of it after the fact, because I feel like just having creative freedom is the most important thing to creating a great work of art. If you just constantly have to think about restriction, it kind of detracts from creating with abandon, right? Just to have this more luscious looking piece where there's just beauty and the seams are seamless. You know, that's what you really want it. You want it to look like you've hidden all the magic and the gears, essentially. All the stuff that's the guts of something are just elegantly hidden somewhere and you don't even think about it. So that's what I try to do with everything I print. Of course, sometimes, like, in the older prints I've made, there's, like, definite, like, clear straight lines, but I make it easy where that they're so clean and flat together that just a little bit of putty or glue and a little bit of touching up and it's gone. It's super well hidden. So, and then with recent sculptures, I've been trying to be a little bit more heavy-handed in a good way with how I hide seams. This is being pulled apart here, but just to show you guys. So then I made the break pretty much along areas that were logical breakpoints, and then I also created like a male and female part so that they really when you put the glue in there or epoxy, it really blends in pretty well. And with just a little bit of epoxy, like I said, a little putty, it would be really hard to see the seams after that. So right now they're obvious, they're there. But still, they follow the wrinkles and the folds in the skin of the raptor, for instance. So that's how I kind of like to operate. Now, when I when I feel like I just have more time to kind of invest in engineering something and kind of refining it even more. So anyway, yeah. Morale is so important working on a big project. Yep. And happy team produces shit work. It's true. Comedy doesn't get enough accolades other than Mel Brooks. I don't know many great comedy directors. This is true. Although I'm not really aspiring to do comedy, I agree with you. I miss good comedies. I miss good, intelligent, wholesome films. It sounds so cheesy, but like I was thinking about, I love Steve Martin. I love Steve Martin's comedy. I really admire the guy. I'm listening to his autobiography right now. I mean, not literally right now, but on my audiobooks, on my Audible account. And it's awesome. I love the guy. I just think he's so cool. And his story is great. It's inspiring. He had nothing like a lot of people and really kind of just slept in his car and worked his way up. And like a lot of artists, like a lot of people who just have a dream and they just go after it. You know, they start with very little. They live in a van. They live in a car. They live on their friend's couch. And they understand the sacrifice that but they also understand what they're meant to do, or they have a compulsion, right? Like breathing. They cannot do it, so they just do whatever they can to make it work. And those are the winners. Those are the people who really come out on top, man. It's people who say, I'm gonna give it all up. I'm all in, right? Like even Elon Musk. He's like, I'm gonna keep $1 million. I'm gonna put in 20. You know what I mean? Like keep enough to survive, maybe, but I'm going all in, man. I got a dream. I got a vision. I know what I'm capable of. I know I can do it. F whoever's a naysayer. It's like a gnat. Like who cares? Get away from me, Nat. It's like, I know what I can do. I just need the chance. I just need the opportunity. And that's how I felt in my life with a lot of things. I know I'm capable. I know I'm articulate and good with a lot of elements. It's just, give me the interview. Just get me the interview. I'll get us that contract. I'll get it done. I'm a go-getter. So I respect that. So Steve Martin had a lot of that attitude. And anyway, so I love Father of the Bride. I love the Father of the Bride movies. I think they were just great. Classy. Even another great comedy that would probably never get made today, because I actually made the opposite one and it did terribly. A lady friend was over and she was like, let's watch What Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. And I was like, dude, that was a good movie. I haven't seen that in forever. And so we rented it on Amazon and watched it, and we're laughing and dying. And yeah, I mean, sure, it's not perfect. There are cheesy parts and there's stuff that's kind of cringy here and there a little bit, or it's like whatever. But it's still a good movie, and they did such a great job, I think, overall. And the soundtrack is great, too. I mean, got all these classic crooners and jazzy tunes and just blues and all this great music and great actors. Like, what a cast. Yeah, so, I don't know. It's just, movies like that aren't made anymore, and I miss those kind of movies where they're just great stories. Fun stories, funny comedies, witty, relatable. Relatable for a lot of people. I know not everybody has the upper Manhattan life or the beautiful upper middle class suburban life. I mean, we all come from different backgrounds, but a lot of us do have the suburban life, or did, grew up in that. I did, and so a lot of those stories are very relatable in some ways. And I visited New York a lot, even though I never lived there. I've been up there a lot, and I love the city. I love Manhattan. I love seeing Manhattan in movies, or at least I did. I mean, I feel like the city's probably a bit different now, unfortunately, in not the best ways. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know, I'm just rambling. I miss good movies like Father of the Bride. And you guys can disagree with me, that's fine. What else we got here? Yeah, Vasquez, you're right, the comedies. Good comedies are not common anymore. Do you like Chinese ornament? Can you sculpt in a real... You mean in real life with clay? Yes, I can sculpt in real life, but it's just a lot messier and time consuming, and I feel like you can just get so much more detail and do so much more faster with digital. It's not really incentive for me to really do physical sculptures anymore. But excuse me, I think what would be cool is if we could really efficiently print in clay at this resolution and then be able to sculpt on it after the fact. That'd be awesome. But I don't think anyone's really cracked that yet. I have a friend of mine who he has a clay producing company, and he made a filament that was like clay, but he still had a hell of a time, I think, getting it to print right. And I don't know if he ever really got it out the door efficiently, because extruders and hot ends all had different problems, and they had clogged, and it was just getting that to extrude perfectly was always a really hard challenge for him working with different types of printers. What else we got? Yeah, New Lion King did the original dirty. Feels bad, man. I know. I mean, it's like, I don't want to say too many negative things, because obviously I don't want to speak badly against Jon Favreau, because I really like the guy a lot from everything I've seen him. I mean, I've never physically spoken with him face to face, but through different people, through emails, we've communicated, and mostly from him to me saying, "I like your work. This was great. Too bad we couldn't implement it in the movie." Blah blah blah. So that kind of stuff. But I know people who know him too, and they all say great things about him. So, and I'm sure there's things he liked or didn't like about the movie too that he didn't have control over. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't giving full, carte blanche, because Disney has a very tight control over their properties a lot, and I'm sure they stipulated a lot of things that I don't know about that maybe we all didn't really like, and probably even maybe Jon didn't like. But he had to play game, he had to play ball, because it's not his property. But he still seemed like he had a lot of technical and a lot of creative freedom. So who knows? I don't know who made what calls exactly. I wasn't privy to all that information. But yeah, unfortunately, I think that I would have preferred, and this is just my opinion on a lot of things. Like, I'm thinking about doing some pitch stuff for Making the Land Before Time, a feature, live action, not live action, but like a hyperreal CG, to do it well. Like, I would love to, again, write and direct it. Adapt it, but I was just rewatching the original the other night, and again, some things are great and still hold up great, and other things are really cheesy and like, that could be a lot better. But still, so many of the shots in Land Before Time, the original, it's just the first one. I've never seen the sequels. I know there's like 14 of those movies or something insane. They're all just like too many Scorpion King movies. Like, just no one's ever seen like past one or two maybe, and all the rest of everyone regards as kind of garbage, unfortunately. But the original just had such an amazing soundtrack. James Horner. They got freaking Diana Ross, to do the credits song. Like, that was awesome. Yeah, but Land Before Time just has such beautiful shots and such some great composition. And so I'm probably going to do like a cool little teaser trailer for it. That'll be pretty simple to do, I think, in general. I'll probably do that after I'm done with all my other projects right now. Maybe I'll do it in the middle of them. Sometimes inspiration just hits you and you're just like, I gotta get this out the door now, and you just sort of vomit out all your creative energy in like one night or something, and you stay up way too late and just get it done. So maybe I'll do that, I don't know. Anyway, what even brought me on that tangent? I forget. I'm just rambling. Sorry, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff here. So yeah, anyway, yeah, Lion King. It's like, there's a lot of things I didn't like about it. The other things I did like about... so I was going to say about the reason why I got off on Land Before Time is because the audio of the original... See, this is my thing with the new Lion King versus the old. I mean, I really think they should have brought all the same voice actors back, regardless of color and race. Who cares? It was just... I look at it like this. Like, a great song... We all know Lion King so well. Like, I think a lot of us can, of course, sing all the songs, and we know... Even we probably, as kids, watched it so many times. It's so burned into our memories that it's like hearing a great song that you know, and then someone does a really weird or just not your taste cover of that song, that's kind of how the audio, especially for the new Lion King, felt. It just didn't have, because it's such a specific, there's certain phrases and words and sentences that are, and cadences and inflections that are just so specific that when you hear it said any other way or with less energy or less emotion, it just feels like line reading. It just feels like fans sitting around a table at mic, you know, or like doing like a Zoom call, reading lines from a script in a painfully bland way. And that just kills it. It kills the emotional connection that you have to the original work. And for me, that's sadly how it felt watching a lot of the new Lion King with the audio, especially. The visuals are amazing. I think they did an amazingly phenomenal job creating realistic animals. I feel they could have pushed the emotion much further, because I've seen a lot of footage of real lions, and there's a lot more emotion in their faces than what the lions in Lion King showed. Personal take, of course. I'm sure people will disagree with me. I'm sure many people who worked on it would disagree with me, but I watch a lot of nature documentaries. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube about lions. My last name means of lion, so I'm a big lion fan in general, and I love those animals. And I've just seen a lot of expression in animals, man. I see a lot of emotion in their faces and in their body language, and I feel like that could have been pushed a hell of a lot more than what it was, without becoming weird, anthropomorphized, like, you know, Uncanny Valley, weird, freakish kind of stuff. But that's, again, maybe that would have just taken more time, more energy, and you know, when I worked at NPC, and like any other studio, they don't have just one big contract and just only work on that. A lot of times there's artists, you know, maybe they are working on one character for a while, but then they have to move on to something else. Like, there's always this train, this line, this pipeline of other things coming down the road, and so you don't get to spend as much time on something or researching it as you'd like a lot of times. So maybe that factored into some of it. I don't know. I would have advocated, if I was in any way, shape, or form had the power to influence where the animation would have gone, or I would have even advocated just to do a test. You know what I mean? Like just to, I would have even stayed off hours and just done some tests just to show, like, I think we can push the expression more, and then here are some actual, like, you know, facts and evidence. I would have shown some videos of real lions getting angry, being sad, being injured, and I would have shown a more wide range of emotions, and then, like, done blend shapes, you know what I mean? So you can gauge in this range of emotions and slide all these different features and expressions, and really show that you could push things more and still have it look real. Even looking at, like, house cats and whatnot, and your dog. I mean, like, you know, you look at your pets, they have a lot more expression than a lot of movies. I mean, some movies, of course, push it too far too. But anyway, so that's my take. I said that I wish the audio was the same as the original, because it's like a good song you hear, and then whenever you hear someone doing a bad version of it, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It just breaks your heart, because the original is just so iconic. The animated sequels did that already. The third movie was a funny Rosencrantz, Gerstein are dead. Yeah, original Hamlet. Original's Hamlet. Yeah. How barbaric. Stop spanning words, phrases, warning. Okay, what? How did you find a slot joint thingy? Part that inserts into the other. Fluffling? I'm not sure what you mean. How did you find a slot joint? Oh, you meant for the Raptor. Sorry, brain's behind everything. How did I find it? I made it. There was a pin that I found, but I even edited the pin, cut the pin in half, and mirrored over the other half. But if you go on, like, Thingiverse, you can find a lot of joints and snap pins and all kinds of stuff. There's a whole plethora of them out there. Just search for a joint, snap pin, you know, ball hinge joint, all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff out there. You just edit it. Just go. It's free. Just go ahead and edit the hell out of it and make it your own. All right. Sorry, way back in the chat. There's just nothing. Use your remote a few times, but hi. Poser Ninja, what's up? Sequelitis. Now it's just live action syndrome. Yeah. Yeah. Love Lane Before Time. Yeah. Yeah. Live action could work. style would be difficult to nail without hitting Uncanny Valley. Yeah. All the Scorpion King movies. Wow, you've actually seen all the Scorpion King movies. Oh my god. Wow. What are they like? I've only seen the first one, and I was like, I never want to see any of the others again. I never want to see the first one again. The Corridor Crew guys did a cool like reimagining or like editing of the special effects, and they improved it. It was pretty cool. And it was just a testament to how fast a very elite team of talented artists can work and what they can do. And even now with Unreal, it's even faster. One man can do a ton of stuff now. It's pretty nuts. It's just a matter of getting familiar with the tools and learning what you need to do. Yeah, and if I were to do Land Before Time live action, I would not go for the cartoony style. I would go for much more realistic, for sure. It wouldn't be like the cartoon version. But again, I think it'd be like Dinosaur. I think Dinosaur did a pretty good job of showing emotion in the face, Disney's Dinosaur, without being too weird and creepy and cartoony. They did a really good job, I think, of actually making Aladar, the Iguanodon, have a animatable face and relatable emotions without being creepy, weird, or disgusting, or like revolting. You know, I think they nailed that for dinosaur expression, and I feel like that's the kind of lean I would give The Land Before Time if I were to really try to do that. Yeah, so I think that's the direction that was like the look and the stylization of that was perfect. I thought actually. For having relatable animal faces that look realistic and yet still have... I think the eye colors and things, I would keep it a little bit more realistic and give them more depth. Not be so human-like with the eyes, because I feel like that's too cartoony in my opinion. But it's just little things like that. I think The Land Before Time, again, if done really faithfully to the original and using all these beautiful colors and the just the painterly look to things, as far as like the backgrounds, and even like this moment when Sharptooth is like running and it feels almost like a little bit of slow motion, and his feet are crashing down and all the rocks kicking up, and the kids, Littlefoot and Sarah, get like launched into the air because of the shockwaves of his steps, and they like wind up landing on his foot, and they're being carried on it, and you just get the enormity of the T-Rex versus these little babies. That sequence is just incredible, and I'm like, dude, to put that into live action would just be freaking awesome. Like, just phenomenal. If you kept around the same camera angles and the same scale, and just bolstered the sound design and just really knocked it up. I mean, holy crap, just really knocked it up a few notches. Good God, that would just be... There's so many iconic, beautifully composed, just excellently executed sequences in that film that I would love just to see transposed into live action look, you know. You know, you got some wiggle room, but like to really accentuate and glorify those moments, like really just crescendo those moments. It would just be freaking awesome. It looked like Don's... Oh, yeah, so Exodus is saying the same thing, or whatever the Disney movie was called. Yep. Speaking... sorry, I didn't read those guys' comments. Have the same take on some things. Hasn't aged well. I like that movie. It's just weird that Uncanny Valley that was common at that time. Yeah. Just in the sense the style of it could work, yeah. Decor and middle stuff. T.S. Whittlebach. Yeah, his stuff is great. Yeah, Whittlebach is awesome. All right. Anyway, sorry, I'm just blabbing here and not sculpting. Let me get back to the sculpture. Anyway. All right, so I've got this thing in symmetry, and I probably got to get out of symmetry at this point and start working on this thing asymmetrically. We know the trailer. Oh God, no! It was that movie felt so. I can't even remember like 90% of it. I just remember watching it once and being like, this thing is so discombobulated and just so piecemeal and weird. I don't know. I felt like it just didn't gel. I think they could have made an awesome movie out of it because the idea is really cool and fun. But I feel like the execution was just painful. They would need to make it more like more cohesive, kind of more like Cowboy Bebop-ish in some ways. I think because they're still very desperately different characters, and yet they have this really they still work, and you endear to them. I feel like they need to take some pages out of the book of the original anime of Cowboy Bebop to make something like Treasure Planet really work. But yeah, it should have worked. I mean, it's like you should have taken the spirit. What they should have done is had the spirit of like Pirates of the Caribbean. Have some of that energy, some of that stylized kind of feel to things, and just add a little bit of that futuristic, you know, space atmosphere to it. But yeah, should have taken like Cowboy Bebop and Pirates of the Caribbean, throw them in a blender together, and some really beautiful CGI and animation, and then you could have a really kick-ass Treasure Planet. And of course, Treasure Island, you know, of course, take some of those classic elements too. Of course, that's what it's really based on. You know, and we can always use a really classy, exciting remix of Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo. Like, I love that story and I love that movie. That's such a great adaptation, in my opinion. I freaking love The Count of Monte Cristo. And I think, again, it's just a great, like, adventure, swashbuckle kind of, you know, emotional, powerful story of love and betrayal and redemption and revenge and righteous revenge, really. And it's I mean, of course, revenge is never a good idea, but yeah, that was I thought it was a great movie. I think Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce did a phenomenal job. And what's her name? Who plays? I forget her name. Beautiful actress who plays who plays Mercedes. She did a great job. All the cast did a great job. His little fellow friend who he almost kills and then becomes his right hand man. I forget that actor's name too, but freaking hysterical. He is great. A really well-known Mexican actor. I can't remember his name. Oh man, that was a great movie. It was like a sleeper hit to me too, because I was like, looks. My sister really wanted to see it, so she took me that summer. I think we were still living together in the same house, and so we went to see it, and I was blown away. I was like, holy crap, this is great. This was so much better than I thought it would be. And that's really too before I think Guy Pearce really became a huge name. But I forget if did Count of Monte Cristo come out before or after Memento? I don't remember, because I remember once I saw Memento, I was a Christopher Nolan and John and Guy Pearce fan for life. Like, I was sold. I mean, like, anything they do, I will at least want to see it. You know. Sorry, my neighbor's texting me. I have a neighbor who's like my aunt. She's always checking on me now because she knows I'm injured, and I live alone, so it's like I have no help. Oh, cool. Okay, she might help me walk my dog. Thank God, because I'm out there hobbling around right now with my arthritic dog. So we're both limping. We're both walking down the street like two decrepit old men, just crawling down the sidewalk in pain. I've got to get my dog like a stroller or something. I'm going to be one of those people pushing their dog in a little basket, a little pram. The poor guy's arthritic, and I'm doing all I can to help him, but I just don't know what else I can really do before he just wants to keep walking or lays down. It becomes so frustrating, so I have to carry him home a lot of times, but now I can't because of my leg. It would be so hard, and I wouldn't want to drop him or anything, so I just kind of force him to go short distances and say, "No, we're stopping here. We got to go back." And I kind of have to be an authoritarian pet parent, and say, "No, stop barking." Now he just loves to bark in rebellion too. It's like if he doesn't want to come back home, and I'm like, "We're going home," he just starts barking to the world. He's like kind of barking at me, but not with like rage, just like defiant yelling, like, "I'm being forced against my will to go home. This is not what I want." Abuse. You know, he's just like barking out into the ether. It's kind of hilarious, but it's also frustrating because it's like, dude, I gotta go. I gotta stream. I gotta get back to whatever. It's pretty hilarious. Someone could make this this feels like sometimes my life feels like a friggin' sitcom. Like you could take moments and make it like a Seinfeld episode or something, or a Friends episode. So ridiculous. Anyway, sorry. All right, missing some chat. What are we saying? What? The movie was great? Okay, you liked the movie? All right. Atlantis was better. Yeah, I never saw Atlantis, but I remember hearing people liked it. The story was great. It was good, but I don't know if it was better. You made an enemy for life. Planet and Atlantis are my favorites. Treasure Planet. Okay. The actor's name is Luis Guzman. That's right. Yeah. Black Cauldron was good too. Zombie Owner and Zombie Dog. Yeah, exactly. Kind of reminded me of the Don Bluth movies. Great stuff. Yeah. Black Cauldron. Yeah, Don Bluth, man. I mean, Secret of Nim. All right, I'm gonna put leg down for a while. Secret of Nim and Land Before Time are two of my. Oh, and American Tail. Those three, and All Dogs Go to Heaven. 4. I keep forgetting there's like and this one and this one. But yeah, especially Land Before Time and Secret of Nim are like really beloved films for me as a kid. And American Tail. I mean, it's such a powerful, emotional story too. Just that the reunion of the Fievel and his father, man, it's like, God, it's so touching and so beautiful the way they have, again, that emotional with the music and the visuals. It's just this beautiful, just poignant crescendo, really hits you in the gut emotionally, and like they just nailed that. And it's like we don't see that much anymore. That's that level of emotional, just power. I miss that. I really do. I feel like we got a little bit of that for me in Interstellar, but still wasn't the same. It wasn't, and I'm not saying that, like, I'm speaking purely from emotional punch, which I think both live action and animated can do equally well. It's simply a matter of just execution and understanding how to engineer a scene to elicit a specific emotional response from an audience. And of course, you're always going to have, a spectrum, bell curve, whatever. You're going to have people falling off on either end, but the general majority will feel the same kind of response, or you can get that from the people who are in tune with the same culture. And I feel like a lot of films just aren't doing that anymore, like they used to. I think they're becoming too formulaic and too safe and too they just don't have the teeth. They don't have the ferocity emotionally that other films did. In the 80s and 90s, where they were just a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more dangerous, I guess, risky, in how they operated and how they told a story. And I think that's a shame. I think that we need some more of those family films, or just films that are for all audiences, that can really just give it to you emotionally, just really hit you hard and with depth, with meaning, like not just to manipulate you, not to just pull your strings and make you kind of feel an emotion in a cheap way, but to really keep some stakes in there where, like, yeah, the parent dies, or a child dies, or a friend dies, or there's something that really exposes the audience, and especially young people, to like some of the harshness of reality, but in a safe way. And safe meaning, of course, that it's not real life, but it's an echo, representation of what real life is. And I feel like that is an incredibly valuable lesson and way to teach young people about harshness of reality and the dangers of the world and life and what can happen, or what does happen a lot of times, and sadly, is that people suffer, people die, there are evil people in the world and there are good people in the world, and knowing who to trust and what to do is extremely important. I think all those ideas are great, and I think they can be capitalized on. I mean, you can make a very nominally successful film and also have it be a fantastic work of art. I don't think that they're ever mutually exclusive, but it feels like a lot of people who are in power, executives, producers, they always seem to be hedging their bets, or someone else is always like just dulling the end of that nail, that needle, and like making it, taking a knife and turning it into a spoon, basically, and it's just emotionally deadening so much that we see today. And it really is frustrating for me, because I think that audiences deserve better, and I feel like the arts, as I said on it's like a quote I have on my site, it's the arts are where culture is formed and influenced. I feel like we really, a lot of people are heavily influenced by the arts, for better or for worse, and I feel like the arts right now could be so much more powerful in a good way, a source of good. They should be, anyway. So speaking of Luis Guzman, have you guys seen that movie Waiting with Ryan Reynolds? Freaking hilarious. Again, another movie that would never be made today. But freaking hysterical in my opinion. Oh my god, and the ending. That kid from Freaks and Geeks, that actor, he just both barrels just emotionally just lets everybody have it, and it's freaking hilarious. Oh my god. And I waited for quite a bit. I think I started with Olive Garden, and then I graduated to like really high-end fine dining for a few years before I stopped waitering altogether. So I've been in that environment, and I remember they called the restaurant Shenanigans, and it's based off of Bennigan's, which doesn't exist anymore, but Shenanigans. Oh, it was great. Such a apropos name. Yeah, I forgot Nim. Freaking dope too. Yeah, Nim was super dark and awesome. They had blood. They had swearing in it. Rat Utopia Experiment. They should have book real life Calhoun Rat Utopia Experiment. The real book isn't the book. It's called the Rats of Nim. That's the original book. Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. That's actually the title. Mrs. Frisbee or Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, something like that. Yeah, I rewatched the movie recently, and I looked at the rat experiment, and it was kind of disturbing. Huh. So wait, is the rat experiment? Is that actually the name of the book? The rat experiment, or rat experiment, rat utopia? Or are you just talking about like you're just saying that look at the rat experiment? It was, I mean, that idea though is super intriguing to me too. I think, and I think that that's like a brilliant notion. It's a brilliant idea, you know. And the National Institute of Mental Health is a real institution, if I'm not mistaken. And that idea, I think, is a brilliant idea, and I think that could make a really awesome film. You know, you have this idea of these animals being experimented on, and then I love how elegantly the character in Nicodemus explains too. I forget exactly. I'm paraphrasing, but I remember he says he looked out his cage and saw the label on the cage and understood the words that were written. And he's like, we could read. And so like that idea of just that comprehension, of course that alone is like supernatural, because I don't know how an animal could go from hearing words, how any person can go from just hearing sounds to being able to understand all the letters in the alphabet, you know, how to pronounce. But still, logic aside, just the idea of that science fiction element of like they were injecting and playing with the brain and then chemicals, and then suddenly something clicked and the human world made sense to them, and like basic mechanics and logistics and reading and technology all started to kind of pyramid and started to build upon itself. It's just such a cool idea. It's such a cool, smart, fun concept. And that's, again, I feel like we're just missing that. We don't see a lot of brilliant ideas that are high concept. I hate the phrase high concept too, because you hear the words high concept, I think elevated mentality. But that's not what it is. High concept in entertainment really just means Transformers. It's like, it really means gone with the opposite. It just means something that is, it really comes off anyway in that sense, where it's like you say something's a high concept, but it doesn't feel like it's truly what the words say. It's not a high concept. It's usually like lowest common denominator piece of crap film. It's like, it's not an elegant, intellectual, deep yet super accessible film, and that's what I think a high concept film should be, is, you know, elevating the status quo, like Jurassic Park, like a Michael Crichton story, like Sphere. You take a brilliant idea but make it accessible or ramp the audience up, right, from someone who doesn't know anything about DNA, who doesn't know anything about time travel or, you know, physics, and you educate them in an intelligent way, not in a clunky exposition-y like, oh, let me just explain this device to you in a really weird and awkward way that no one would ever say to somebody else to explain a whole really deep concept, but in a really terribly poorly written moment. Like, that's just, it's cringy. Unfortunately, one of Christopher Nolan's movies has that, or a couple of them, I think, but they just did all of Christopher Nolan's movies on honest trailers on YouTube the other day, and I just watched it the other day. I think it came out recently. It was hilarious. But one of the things is they like they show a clip from, and I still love all the Batman movies he made, I really do. But they showed a clip from, what is it? Dark Knight Rises, and one of the villains is pinned down by Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, and she's asking for the clean slate, or she's like saying, "Where is it?" And then the guy's laying there being pinned by her, like, and he's like, "What do you mean, the clean slate? The thing which..." And then he goes on this long, like, paragraph of describing what the device does and what it is, and I'm like, in real life, dude, they both know what they're talking about, so they would just address it by probably an acronym even. They wouldn't even, like, say anything more than, like, where's the C93? Whatever that would be. You know what I mean? Like, that's a known thing between them. It's a known quantity. So that's terrible writing there, where you're like, well, we didn't really tell the audience before what the clean slate is, so we better just tell them right now. And it's like, God, how... That's like, how terrible. That's like, a 14-year-old could write a better way of explaining a complex device and a physical device and also plot device than what was written right there. And I don't know if Jonathan Nolan or whoever else was involved just was having a bad day, or just was like, oops, we forgot to tell people what this device is and that it's super important to the whole story. And I was just like, oh my God, That's so bad. So that happens, but it's like, still, I mean, I think we need more films like this, though. We need more film in a good way. We need films that are intelligent, that communicate really smart ideas, that make people think and question, and like The Matrix. That's why I love The Matrix so much. I mean, it got you walking out of the theater saying like, "Oh my God, are we in a simulation? Are we in the Matrix?" Even though you know it's not reality, it still plays with your mind. Of course, we have physicists now all saying all the time, maybe we're in a simulation. Da, 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 da. I mean, even a friend of mine was just tweeting that the other day, and I was like, yes and no. I mean, I look at it like, of course, I believe in an afterlife. I hope there's one, but I believe there's one. And so you can almost look at it as like our souls, right? What continues on, our eternal elements of who we are, because everyone feels like they're going to live forever. Not that we operate with a sense of invincibility. I've never done that. But I feel like a lot of us innately feel like we're going to live forever, and the idea of our consciousness ceasing to exist is terrifying, which is really the ultimate reality of death. All of us don't want pain, but pain is temporary. Death is essentially forever, right? And I feel like that is truly what's scary. That's what's scary to us, is that the ceasing of our consciousness to exist is terrifying. And I look at it like, you could say we're in a simulation, and that this reality, our bodies, is all a simulation, because it's a simulation for our souls. Our souls are, you could almost think of it being projected into our brains, and then our brains are what our mind is, enveloped in, and that's how we operate through our bodies in this reality. But you die, it's ripping your soul away from your body and bringing it back to wherever it's being projected from, right? Essentially, like an echo. It's like an invisible, string, entanglement string or something, essentially, where you're talking about like two like string theory in general. It's like two different, I forget exactly how, I'm going to totally butcher it, but right, there's two different entangled particles, and they could be infinitely far apart, and yet they still kind of have a connection to each other. I feel like that's almost like how the soul works in the spiritual sense, that we are, who we really are is just encapsulated in these bodies, but who we really are, and our minds, our brain, that essence of who we are is somewhere else, and it's sort of just being temporarily stored or copied here, and when we die, it returns to the source, and we go back to the ultimate reality of whatever that is. So that's my kind of sort of weird take on it. It's just another way of saying, like, yeah, I think heaven exists and hell exists, and something like that is out there. I do believe that. Again, it's my interpretation of it. Like, I never want to be like, this is what so-and-so was saying. I hate it when people are like, oh, God told me this. Like, dude, if you believe in God, that seems like extremely, to say that just feels so arrogant. I don't know. It seems like so much hubris to be like, I know what the creator of the whole universe is telling me to do, or telling you to do. It's like, maybe if you want to pull that back a little bit, because if there really is a creator, that's pretty insulting to say, like, I know exactly what they're saying. Like, no, you gotta stay humble, man. It's like an ant saying, like, I know what the best physicist in the world is gonna do. Like, no, you don't. Anyway, sorry, just random thoughts here. They're coming together from other things. The brain. Saw YouTube talking about Rat Utopia. Same thing we do every night, Pinky. I love the Animaniacs, dude. Pinky and the Brain are awesome. I was just watching some of those episodes the other day on Hulu. They got big brain IQ. That's how they can read, yeah. I could go on about how modern English descends from Middle English that was designed to be read phonetically, but that would be overkill. Okay, well, there you go. You'd probably benefit from it. It's the perfect way to ruin your movie, to get out of the contract without ruining your reputation. We could always do multiple posts. Matrix is about auto-substantiation, the escape of simulation, how you turn around in ZBrush? What? You want to turn around in ZBrush? Is that what you're asking? You want me to show you? Oh, sorry. I wasn't sure what that question was, but is that what you're asking for? Why they exist, pain, why we feel pain, what is the purpose of that? Short of it is Old English resembled Norse, and when the British nobility, when French Middle English came about to bridge the gap with Latin. It's pretty interesting. You should try giving voice to animated characters. You're telling me to? I know, it's funny. I think I could do a decent job. I can be very animated and kind of go full on in. I think I just need a little coaching. And a friend of mine's a voice coach, and she's actually been telling me to start working with her a little bit and to try to start doing some stuff. I love doing Arnold. I need to practice more because I'm not the best, but I feel like I can get there at times. I think like last stream or the stream before, I was doing Arnold a bit. Everyone could do Arnold though, I guess, but I feel like there's certain people who do it better than others for sure. I'm not sure where I fall in that category, but I think I do a decent one. But I don't know. I have a pretty wide range. I can go pretty low and dark, and I can do the tiny little voices too. Hey, guys, what are we doing here? The sculpt is pretty intimidating. I don't know, whatever. Plus, my voice has not been feeling too normal. I think I've been breathing in a bit of dust. I need to dust my apartment. But anyway. Yes, can you animate a turnaround in ZBrush? Sorry for that. Oh, okay. Now, are you asking me to animate a turntable for you just because you want to see this whole thing, or you want me to show you how to do it because you want to learn how to do it because you've never done it before? Which I can do quickly anyway, either way. But for anyone's benefit, if they've never done a turntable in ZBrush, yes, you can totally do one. Just imagine an animated movie where every voice is Arnold. That would be actually really hilarious. They should actually hire Arnold to do an entire cast of characters for a short miniseries. That would be freaking hysterical. I would pay to watch that with pleasure. I'd pay for it twice. Come on, kill me! Come here! Kill me! Do it now! It's not a tumor! All that fun stuff. Get down! Get to the chopper now! You can tell I'm not on my A game today, but anyway. Sorry, what are we doing here? You want to do a turntable. Someone's asking for a turntable. Good God, it's been a while. Movie, okay, right, sorry. Had to resynchronize. You want to do movie, you want to do document, not the whole window, because the window would, unless you want to do the whole window, but that's kind of for different purposes. You want to say large, then you got your modifiers here. Well, the way I do it, so I've got a couple other options here. Typically overlay image, and then you got title image. Title image is like whole screen goes black and you have the ZBrush logo and all that, and then it hangs there for a few seconds. Yeah, typically nothing against Pixologic at all, but I just turned it off because most people know you're using ZBrush. It's a pretty standardized thing here, so you don't really need that. They also have a little image overlay which you have down in the right hand corner or whatnot. I think this position is what allocates that up, right, left, down. So you can have your logo in here if you want. You can easily replace this image by clicking on that and then loading in your own texture for your own logo if you want to do that. But again, typically, you can leave it on for now. I often turn that off. And then otherwise you want to say, skip menus, whatever. Although you're not really recording like stop. This is how you can also do, by the way, movies, how you also do like a time lapse within ZBrush, right? If you want to record, it only records an image when you click on the document or when you click on your model, one of the two. So it really keeps it super efficient. It only records that one frame when you're touching it. So it creates a beautiful time lapse. But the problem is I've often had it crash. So then you lose all your time lapse unless you saved it quickly between different times. Anyway, but that aside, to do a turntable, what else do we got here? Frame size 1. You want to keep all that the same. You usually want Y to be your vertical, so that's what will be the rotation axis. What else do we want to do? Spin frames is fine. Spin cycle 1. You at least do 2 or 3. Everything else I think I leave the same. And then you just click turntable up here. And there it goes. So now it's recording the turntable. And it's recording it to a temporary file. So you have to make sure then to say you want to export it out at high quality. And I think there's a few other parameters you dictate to it, and then you save it, and then it's done. It's pretty straightforward. And let's say you gave it too many counts for some reason, too many rotations, and you're like, I don't really want to do 3, I want it to do 2. Or you just, it's doing already too many, and I need to stop it, whatever it is. And you can always hit escape whenever you want. I'll just do it here after 2 rotations, and I won't go for a third. So I'll do it right there. So it stops it. You might think, what happens to the file? It's still there. it just stopped it right where it was. So then you want to do high quality. That's right. Yeah, high quality, which is a little H here for high quality export. And then you just click export to save it. You can also do save it as, like, I think it's like saving it as a ZBrush movie, right? So it only opens up in ZBrush. You can also just play it back right now. So we'll do that quick. And you can see it smooths out those frames. So you have a really nice, and you can, I think you can edit the frame count too, if I'm not mistaken. Like, yeah. So you got here frames per second. You got 24, you know, standard. Actually, really 23.9 is the standard for feature film, whatever. But, you know, 24 is good. So here we go again. But yeah, so when you save it, then it'll do the same thing. So it'll play it again. It's just showing you what it looks like. So then here you want to go to export. And then we just do it in documents. We just call this whatever. We call it Mufasa. Oh, like tingles. Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa. All right, and then it will save it. There you go. That was a line from original Lion King, in case anyone's like, what is wrong with Daniel? For those who have not seen the original Lion King, the hyenas are having fun with Mufasa's name. All right, so there we go. And then you can also delete the movie. So let's say you didn't like that turntable or something happened, whatever, you got to tweak the model and you want to redo it. You can go here, delete movie, because otherwise it'll keep the movie that you just made stored in the memory until you say delete. It'll ask you, save recorded movie before deleting. No, because we already saved it. And now you see that button's disabled again now because nothing is stored. So now you can do whatever you want again. So there's your turntable quick tutorial in ZBrush. And yeah, does that answer your question, Dante, Sparta, Moss? Pro tip, you can record a turntable with your wireframe turned on. Yep, polygroup fill turned off, and blend within the two in After Effects or Premiere for a cool transition. Yeah, that is a very good tip, Mr. Vasquez. Yes, that's a very good tip. As for anyone who's never joined me or may not know, I just want to give a quick little social media stuff. So I'm just gonna give you my list of social media channels. So IG is at Daniel Lion Arts. Twitter is at Lion Arts. Site is www.lionarts.com. Email is Daniel at lion-arts.com. And if anyone is feeling generous at all, since we're all trying to survive in a messed up world right now, income is sparse. What is this? PayPal me/Daniel Lion Arts. I believe that's correct. If you'd like to tip, a little tip jar, there's a digital tip jar for you. Nothing's expected, but everything's appreciated. Yeah, so that's all my stuff for anybody who wants to follow, donate, keep in touch, whatever. All right, what's this? I'm new in ZBrush. Began in this week. Your sculpture is amazing. Thank you. That's very kind. It's still definitely a work in progress, and it's been a slow one at that because I've had a lot of other things going on in between whenever I was originally starting this and now. But it's coming together. So thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, anything burning in the back of your mind that you haven't been able to easily Google or YouTube, let me know, and I will do what I can. We have other people in the chat as well, such as Mr. Vasquez and others who could also assist you if what you may ask may be either too time-consuming, complex, or completely out of left field. So they can also chime in and help you if you would like, or if they would like. So now I think I'm going to do what Vasquez has suggested before. Go into Sculptris Pro, which for stuff like this is really useful. Still trying to get more accustomed to using it. Excuse me. In that I just haven't used it as much as others, so it's not like it's my brain doesn't have that stored in, you know, like, oh, I know exactly predictably how it's going to do what and what it's going to look like. So if I look kind of feebleish when I'm doing certain things with it, forgive me. I have not used it a ton. But for those who may not know, Sculptris Pro essentially does what they call tessimation. So it's tessellating and it's decimating at the same time. I forget if you can turn one of those off and one of them on at the same time too. I forget. I think you can. But it basically creates geometry where it's needed. So if you smooth, it creates more points to smooth it out. And then if you want to add more detail, it'll often add more geo to do that. Then if you want to carve in or remove, it will create different geometry to form that. So you can see how it's dynamically changing, it's dynamically tessellating, adding and removing geometry. When you smooth, it often does remove geometry too, as you see there. It's removing points. So you see density there, and then I hit smooth and shift, and I start smoothing out, and it removes a lot of that density of geo. We also speak different languages. ZBrush has a great community. Yes, there you go. Link tutorial for After Effects. Thank you. The Matrix wall looks super dope. Thank you. Hilarious. Drawing tablet. Take both of these and split it into images. Do a fade. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Vasquez, what you're saying is it's pretty straightforward. Anyone who just wants to, you just load in both videos into After Effects and then just do a crossfade between the one opacity goes completely from 100 to 0 over time, and that lets you dissolve into the other one. And since you have them, if they're exactly the same turntable, they will line up perfectly. So then when it fades, it'll look like it's just fading like a coat of paint over it. Essentially, it'll just fade from one to the other. Really nice transition, and it's a nice way of doing it. I've got to. I've been thinking about doing stuff like that for just some nice making of videos for different projects down the road. I also love it if you've seen, what is it? Is it Marmoset? I think it's Marmoset Tool Bag. They have a beautiful, they have this beautiful, lineup of all these diagonal segmentations for every kind of map. And, you have, all your different, you have your albedo, you have your normal, you have your, whatever it is, like regular AO, all that. You have all your different maps essentially shown in real time, and you can select one and it'll sort of expand over your model and show you only whatever selected element or map on your model in real time, as it does a turntable, or you can freehand move it. Pretty cool. And so if you even screen capture that as a nice little something to show a making of, to show what the finished results of something may look like, for anyone who might be curious to either see that you know your stuff or just to see how something was made. That's a really cool feature I've seen in, I think it's Marmoset. I obviously have not used it that much, but I've seen it, and I'm planning to eventually use something like that to show just some cool making of stuff for a certain character I've been working on and off for a while. That's always fun. I always appreciate well done making of footage, whether it's for a movie or it's an asset for a movie or a game, whatnot. If it's something I like, if it's something I'm a fan of, I'm always interested to see more. And I'm the guy who watches every single behind the scenes making of video for all the movies I buy and watch. I watch every piece of that usually if I love a movie, because I like to see what they do. And it's interesting how, and I really am annoyed when movies don't include the trailers in their extras. I'm like, dude, the trailer is to me it can be a really good work of art. It should be. And when movies have really great trailers, I'm always kind of miffed if they don't have it with the Blu-ray. You're paying an exorbitant amount for a 4K disc, and they don't even have the freaking trailer on it. I'm like, come on, man. That's basic, bare minimum. Usually they do, but sometimes they don't. I'm annoyed. But yeah, I'm a huge movie freak. So, just sort of making some bulges for clouds here. I know it's not super exciting, but just kind of feeling out. So much of this is not Mufasa. It's like so much of this is... Because Mufasa's kind of... He's not done. I mean, I don't call him done, but he's close. I mean, I might tone down some of these little curly areas a little bit, or, fix them here. It's just kind of wonky from different angles. It's kind of... But he's pretty close, I think, to where I'd like him. I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to do a tremendous amount of changes to his face. I might fix some of the little wisps around here and whatnot, but yeah, fix some of these areas too. That'll be too thin to print maybe, or would just be a pain. It'd snap off too easily. Thicken some of those or blend them in underneath some underlying geo. But anyway, that's later. I'm trying to get some more of the rest of this stuff done, because I feel like he's going to be just like the nitty gritty final stuff, and then I've still got to figure out how I'm going to do some of the God rays. I want to stagger. This is the general idea, of course, is that there's like, like that beam of light, multiple beams kind of coming down. So I'm going to try to figure out how to make it feel a little bit more natural, maybe not so symmetrical, because it's just such a perfectly symmetrical stand. It could be cool, but I feel like a little bit more natural, like, depth and shifting, so that there's a little bit of staggering and whatnot, and more uneven, non-symmetrical distribution of the beams would be cool. So it's just a placeholder for now, just to show where my brain is going with this. So yeah, anyway. Any questions? What do we got? Oh, and I forgot to turn on my light here. I'm like becoming like extra silhouette-like here, whatever. There we go. So you guys can see all my unshaven scruffiness in its full glory. What else do we got here? Not too much else. What do you think the future of 3D in 10 to 20 years from now? It's hard to say, man. I think one thing's for sure, we're going to have a lot more AI and machine learning injected into a lot of algorithms. So I think that's something that we're going to see much, much more of in our industry. And it's going to be cool, and it's going to be maybe disheartening for some, because I think that it will kill maybe some processes of jobs. It may reduce even the workforce that's required to make animated films or digital assets. So I think there's going to become, and I'm sure people, if they're smart, will capitalize on that and create programs which will be kind of like Poser or Daz, but for all sorts of other creatures and characters, where you can be like, this is the Creature Maker app, right? Which will take all this different AI and machine learning. You say you want a 4-legged quadruped with feline features, and it'll have this massive, AI powered database of like every single kind of, they'll have had machine learning going on this for a good couple years, so that you have every kind of phenotype, genotype, like every kind of look and color possibly humanly and beyond humanly imaginable. I think that'll be possible. So we'll have some programs which will be able to generate very useful base meshes, or even maybe high detailed meshes, where you can probably go from tier to tier to tier. You get your base mesh down with the general look, and then you start refining with sliders just all these different features based on a bunch of options it'll give you from, you tell it what you want, and it will keep refining those questions, where you could probably get down to like some sort of machine learning where it will say like, how many eyelashes do you want? What kind of eyelashes do you want them to look like? How do you want them to be? Do you want them to be incredibly orderly? Do you want them to be more randomized on the eyelid? Like, I think you're going to get to that level where you're going to be like, okay, what kind of pore type would you like? Are you looking for nose pores? Are you looking for cheek pores? Are you looking for the pores on the forehead, on the arm? What kind of skin do you want? I think you'll be able to put a lot of this stuff into a very automated system. So that will kill a lot of the manual. Again, a lot of that's tedious too, and it would be so nice if you could just have sliders that would be like boom, 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 generate all these different options, and you even already have a certain level of stuff to work with, and it's non-destructive, because we're seeing these fragmented ideas already popping up in things like Substance Painter and Mixer from Quixel. So I think you start feeding in like photogrammetry data and real videos and all this stuff into an AI learning algorithm, and you start giving it specific instructions for how to organize that data for species and, you know, skin types. And basically you're just creating hierarchy, or the way I'm talking about. I can't talk. The hierarchy of information, you know, branches down from large groups into subgroups. And I think that will then be wrapped up in a really slick package for multiple. We'll probably have this, again, like just we had Mudbox against ZBrush. I think we're going to have like Creature Creator 1.0 versus Monster Fabricator 6.5. You know, you're going to have these, you probably have different warring factions, probably ruled by something like Adobe or Facebook or Autodesk. You know, some really big heavy hitters who can fund this kind of machine learning. And then they're going to probably create packages and software that will facilitate and collate all this data, which will probably be pulling it off of the internet in real time, some massive servers somewhere, because you probably wouldn't be able to store all that, you know, petabytes and petabytes, like hundreds of millions of petabytes probably of information. Or maybe it can be generated. Maybe it can just pull in raw data packets that are just numbers and code, and it'll probably stream that in real time from an off location supercomputer that can crunch through all that data and then just spit out what you see on your, you know, just pixels onto your screen. But the actual calculations and machine learning and all that's probably kept off site, which would actually be smart for them. So then they could kind of keep that as their own baby, you know, locked down, but they still feed you whatever you want, and you pay for a subscription, maybe some, you know, relatively affordable subscription that will let you create whatever creature, character, blah, 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 hairstyle. Like, think of any little insanity micro macro thing, and that'll probably be what it'll feed out. So I guess that's my idea for what I think that's where the industry's going in the next 5 to 10 years, is insanely machine learning driven AI compelled info and creation that will then is still I think it's going to be that, you know, instead of being just a renowned sculptor, I think we're going to have to start becoming renowned creative directors. You know, you're going to be able to get anyone. It will be where it's like anyone who doesn't have an artistic hand can still create a masterpiece, but it's all about what they see in their head and then being able to get that to be translated. So it's the next step. It's a more I think it's a giant stepping stone toward just putting on a cap. You know, we put on a something that reads brainwaves, and literally then the speed of thought will be the next step. You know, maybe another 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, where you get to the point where what you see in your head is so clear for those of us who see that way, and then we just need something that can realize it like that. And then within a day you have a short film done from your brain to a visual interface, you know, to like a animated you know, element, and then give somebody maybe a week and they have a finished feature film that's completely CG that would be rendered out in something like Unreal, so it looks photoreal, and it would all be out of the brain of one person over the course of a few days. And I think really that's where we're going, as long as some massive war doesn't happen or something that destroys technology and mankind. I think that's sadly probably, I mean, sadly because it's putting a lot of us creatives out of work. Then I think at that point you can't just be only like a sculptor and artist. And that's also to say that I don't think machines can ever fully replace the ingenuity and the brilliance, the genius of natural, random human thought. But I think that it can provide a mediocre human being with an incredible array of choices. And if their taste, like being somebody who furnishes a hotel or a house, you know, being a semi, you know, interior designer, for instance, just having good taste could allow you to monetize that, capitalize on that, and create really a business empire for yourself. If you're one of the first to really have just an incredible vision that can then, you learn these new tools and how to have them spit out whatever you can think of in the way and style and taste that you have, and that's really appealing to people, then you'll have huge conglomerates, maybe like Time Warner or, you know, Fox or Disney, whoever. I mean, they'll come to you and say, we love your brain. We love the way you think. Can you think up? Essentially, that's what they're having people do now, except it requires so many more artists and creatives and people because directors can't draw. For instance, a lot of directors can't even write. They often take someone else's writing and then give it like that polish and that extra, you know, direction. But so I think a lot of people are not full on creatives. They just have creative tastes and elements, but they lack other technical or, you know, physical skills that would take a lifetime to learn. And now certain algorithms will just and just like just poop out, or just like from the tap, just they'll become that creative, make cool button that people talk about. You're just gonna pull a lever, and then out comes a lion. All right, now I want the lion to have this kind of look, and I want to have this color mane, and I want him to have this kind of sort of a cadence in the sound and the roar, and I want him to have this kind of gait when it walks. And you can just start, if you're a detail freak like myself or someone else. I think that kind of playground would actually be a really fun playground to play in, a really fun sandbox, because you can just you think of all the intricacies of something, but you also think of the grand scale of something, and you can just assemble it from a machine learning algorithm that would just poop out incredible amounts of toys, for you to play with in your sandbox, and that will let you create films and stories and stuff that's just amazing. So it's like anything. I think it was like information was so hard to get before we had libraries, and then we had libraries, and then we eventually got the internet, and so you think. And like anything, people will rebel against it at first, and it will put people out of work until they start learning how to capitalize on the new system, right? So people were like, people were angry, and they railed against the printing press. The printing press, like written paper, right? Stamped, typed out words. People rebelled against that. They didn't like that, rejected it. They thought that was a bad idea. Because why? Because it was going to kill oration, right? It was going to kill other things like speaking. Then they thought, okay, well, the internet's going to kill books. And in some ways it has, but it was actually more audiobooks that have kind of taken the place of a lot of regular books. But books are still being written, right? Stories are still being told, right? So there's always this evolution that technology brings, and it crushes some things, but it also brings in a whole new opportunity. You just have to be willing to evolve or die. That's always been the case with technology and humanity. And I feel like now more than ever, we're seeing an acceleration of that. But it's like, well, I mean, you can't fight City Hall. You gotta adapt. I mean, you gotta roll with the punches. And if you're clever, if you're smart, and you're business savvy, you can actually look at these opportunities as these new shifts in paradigms in the world as massive opportunities to make a lot of money and to make some really cool art. But you've got to be ready to jump on that stuff, But math, the nerds, man, it's the nerds era. We're the people who are really writing that code and are figuring out how to facilitate machine learning. They're going to be just Scrooge McDucking it, just diving into money, just living lavishly. They will be the ones to really have an incredible amount of influence and power in the future, depending on, of course, how our cultures devolve or evolve. So in other words, cancel culture notwithstanding, I think the amount of expression that we'll see coming out of those new technologies will be insane and really exciting. Anyway, I'm excited about it. I think it'd be pretty cool. As someone who wants to be a director and someone who's aspiring for that and thinks in that brain space, and has a lot of, I think, what are tremendous ideas or visions for what people would really enjoy and something different. The barrier to entry to create feature-length films, or the quality of like that, is coming down so fast now, and it's becoming so much more readily available with every passing day, every passing year. We're seeing just such giant leaps. Before it was like no one had you need a really professional camera to get the quality you can get out of your iPhone now to film certain things. If you really don't have money, you can just do stuff on your iPhone now. Software that was much more expensive is now free. Or quality of the same kind of software is free. Look at Mixer, look at Quixel, especially Unreal. Look at Unreal, amazing. So yeah, anyways, that's my really long answer to your question of where things are going. I think it's all going AI, machine learning. And we're all going to have to adapt or be out of work. And I missed a bunch of stuff. Alright, Vasquez is having a conversation. Every 3D will be a print of a gun. He meant making nuclear weapons. Going to be hard to find that many smoke detectors in Wasteland. What is the purpose of nanomesh? You want a mix of cyberpunk universe, Deus Ex augmentations. You can use it for populating arrows with meshes, things that repeat it. Complex arrays, mixing the two, having more control. Yep. We always struggle with human tastes, yeah, and feelings. How do you learn to dread body horror without having a fear of decay and perpetuity, putridness, yeah, without a mortal body? Yeah, there's things I think that humans will always do better than machines can, for sure. But even things that seem incredibly complex and nuanced, like creating suspense and the anticipation of an event that makes you fearful, right? That's what suspense is. Like there's that great, that fantastic, I love this quote by Hitchcock, if I can remember it properly. Oh, no, I don't want to misquote it because it's such a good quote. Let me find it quick. Because this actually is going to be part of the opening to my podcast that I'm going to be starting here soon this summer. I'm determined to have it happen this summer. Let me find it for you quick. So the quote by Hitchcock is, mystery is an intellectual process, but suspense is primarily an emotional response. So thinking of things that way, even with the complexity of those elements, right? A machine, I think, will eventually be able to decode how we operate. I mean, it's going to struggle for a long time because I think they've tried to feed classical pieces to AI in the past, and it spit out what was barely considered music. To some degree, I think it would get some sort of melodic thing going there. So it lacks in a comprehension inherently of what real human emotion and the ebbs and flows, and the kind of the sine wave frequency of human emotion and how that all elegantly blends together in our brains in a very complex sort of orchestration. I think it will always struggle with that because of just how insanely complex the human mind is and how it responds to certain things. And so human to human interaction and dialogue and communication is still king for a long time. But I think that it's I think we are reaching a point where we're going to see machines start to figure out some of those more complex nuances of human existence, and that'll be scary, I think, because then that will really be replacing a lot of the human mind in some ways. I think that's still a ways off, but probably not as far as we would like to think, and that's sort of what's weird and scary and exciting and sad on whatever all at the same time. Because it's. Yeah, I mean, because it's making us less essential for a lot of work. But then it's like, yeah, I mean, then we're moving towards some weird sort of utopian elements here and there for life, which, for better or worse, will become some of our reality. So yeah, it makes me curious. It really makes me curious to see what, how much of that will become reality and how much of it's still like almost impossible to mimic for a machine. But I think we're getting there. I think it's kind of like the snowball has been thrown, right? And I think it's rolling down the mountainside, and it's just picking up more snow and more speed. And I'm not sure that we can really. I'm not sure that anyone will be stopping it. And I think it's on its own in some ways, and we're nudging it along. I think we're still helping it, but it's something that will just keep going. Anyway, so yeah. Personal theory is that our artistic sense comes from nature, from our need to survive in nature. An AI with a survival sense would be scary, like a digital Hitler. Yeah. Where is that? There was a film that said some of that too. Oh yeah, I think it was Interstellar. Yeah, where Matt Damon's character says, "You know why you can't program." What did he say? You know why you can't just send machines out here to do all this? He's like, because you can't program a sense of fear and survival into a machine, and so that's why humans are still like essential beings. Because I think that was a very intelligent commentary on that. That's a very smart. It's a very it's an intelligent observation. It's a very sharp observation. That's why I love Jonathan Nolan, and I had a friend of mine gave me the original script that was Interstellar. So Jonathan Nolan, I think, got Interstellar from somebody else, if I'm not mistaken, and it was originally being written for Spielberg. I forget if Nolan was the one who wrote it first or someone else wrote it. But then I think someone else wrote it, the original screenplay or original story idea, and then Jonathan Nolan, was working on it, and it was going to be given to Spielberg originally, and then of course it wound up going to his brother. But anyway, I still haven't read that entire script yet. I need to, because I really was interested. But my problem is I just don't have that much time, or I don't take that much time to physically read anything anymore. Everything's audio, so I listen to tons of audiobooks, but I'm always using my hands and eyes, so I just don't do a lot of just hardcore reading, even on the internet. Like right now I'm looking at my phone, but if something pops up on a site that I want to read and I can select the text, I select the text, and then with iPhone you can just say select. You'd have to turn it on in options, but then you can have any text read to you. So I always do that because I'm often busy with something else, or I can multitask where I can be doing something like this and completely hear, words and process them just fine, because this is like a whole different part of the brain. So I'm always listening to audiobooks or podcasts while I'm working. So yeah, I want to read that script though. I really do. I just need to copy and paste it all into some other format that I can actually properly have it selected and read to me. I think it was on a PDF, so I can probably just copy and paste it into like notes or something for my iPhone to read to me. Or I think Google has something now too. I have a plugin in Google that lets me have text read to me from a site, which is pretty awesome. It's like we should have that. It should all be standard, I think, in operating systems, and I think it is to some degree, but I feel like that should be standard in all internet browsers now. Where I feel like we should be so. We should have had that a long time ago, implemented, and just it should be an everyday thing for everybody. Or if you're like a really productive person or busy person, and you just want things read to you, or to have things to be able to dictate very easily, it should be like built into everything now. I don't know why it seems like things are still so separate. It should be all built in. I know Cortana is that thing, and it's like, they took the Halo character and made it part of the operating system of Windows 10, but I never use it. And part of me doesn't, because I feel like it wouldn't really be exactly what I want. And often I'm just opening programs, and to click on something is no effort, versus needing to speak to it. Doesn't make my life much easier or faster or anything in that sense. I don't know. Does anyone use Cortana on their Windows machine? Or I don't know what Mac has. I haven't used Mac in forever now. But I don't know if Mac has anything equivalent to that, where you speak to your Apple machine and it does what you want it to, or understands what you're asking. I feel like I was liking it better where it was, and now it's kind of like it's changed too much. Now it's going in with too much depth. I also want to avoid making any weird phallic stuff. Started noticing that. I'm like, I'll change that before it starts looking too much like something that it shouldn't. Sorry, I'm just in chat. What do we got going on? Whoa. What do you think of a human brain stored into AI so that it could have sensitivity like human being? Like a synthesis between a human and an AI. It sounds horrible. Isn't nowadays? They made Sophia the robot to have that kind of sensitivity like human beings. AI girlfriends. They made that horrible, weird movie, Her. I liked it and then I hated it. It's weird. I mean, I liked it like halfway through, and then I think it just got weirder and weirder, and it just became a... I don't know. I didn't like it in the end. Some sort of cloud. Yeah. Easy life, easy money. Yes, sir. The white mark gonna be cloud. Yeah, it's all gonna be clouds. Is that like sarcastic? I mean, a human brain is connected to AI. No, I just saw an article about it somewhere. Yeah, I've also heard about just the speed of connecting, and semiconductors is still a big thing, and I feel like I have some theories about that, and I've been writing some ideas about that. I feel like we're going to be using real neural tissue from rats and other animals to really connect speed and also help computer thought match closer to the ability of a natural living brain, and it keeps temperatures really low because you need sometimes you want petabytes and petabytes of data. What's after peta? Hecta? I don't remember. Whatever. You need massive amounts of data being passed and digested by a machine's brain, so to speak. And the best way to do that is to use real neural tissue. So they've used rat neuronal cells to create some of that. And I feel like that's the future, probably for a lot of computing in the future, and maybe even like machines and whatnot will have some of those elements interwoven into their hardware. So I think we're going to be moving away from strictly laboratory, materials and like synthetically created materials. I mean, we'll be synthetically editing or modifying rat neuronal cells and other animal cells probably, but I think that we'll be seeing some of that. Maybe even taking actual human neuronal cells and just merging them with machines, so that your processor would actually have a biological element to it. But then the problem is, like, how do you keep that tissue alive? And I think that'll be a whole other new thing where you're gonna have, maybe you have to water your CPU. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, give it some sort of nutrient rich. I mean, unless they can figure out a way to keep something alive with just electricity somehow. But I feel like that's only an element of our bodies that are like, we are electricity, but we're also a whole bunch of other proteins and amino acids and just so many other elements that is tissue, and tissue needs to be kept alive. So I think we're going in that direction. I think that's sort of, or we'll figure out a way to create synthetic neurons, so they'll have every single major component of real neurons, but just be completely independent of actual tissue. So there'll be some sort of, artificially created neuron, so they have the same speed and power, raw computing power or transfer data ability as real neurons, but not need to be sustained with nutrients and fluids like real tissue does. Getting lost in the weeds here a little bit. You need to move on. I was also thinking about doing the different technique for that shield that I did last time, and I may try to do that here. I know we're already at 8 o'clock, but there's no one after me, so I'll probably just go for a little longer. For anyone interested. Okay, it wasn't sarcastic. Could be some sort of organic life form as well. That's funny. The better AI movie is infinitely chamber, low production, but a real brain teaser, slow but engaging. Infinity Chamber. I'll have to check that out. Never heard of it. Anyway, capable of judging ZBrush models. Be kind, he's sensitive. Does it look like a cloud? It's not really a cloud yet. Yeah, no, it's a mess. Reanimated dead animals, like just put in a pump as a heart, but the brain was still dead. Scared of this biotech stuff. Ruben M. Who is this sculpt of? This is my friend John. He's a lion. Working really hard to get the likeness down. Now this is Mufasa. Again, if that's a real question or not. But yeah, this is my interpretation of that scene that was not in the movie. I was hired to work on that. They just didn't have the time to implement it, unfortunately. But yeah, this is Mufasa. Thanks, Ruben. No worries. Can really see an Asian style influence, though, huh? Huh, interesting. I mean, yeah, there's some of that in here, I guess, just subconsciously. I see what you're saying, though. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying. I'm a big fan of Asian artistry and culture. I mean, I love so much of the Japanese culture. I appreciate a lot of their sensibilities in design and just detail, insane levels of detail and attention to all that. Pretty big fan of it. So I'm sure that has some subconscious melding in the brain. Not even really thinking about the back just yet, but you know, I'll clean it up so it looks presentable from the back as well at some point. But just trying to think about balancing this all out. Those curly airflows in the line just screams Eastern culture to me. Thanks, man. Have I ever been to Japan? No, I haven't. I really want to go, though. How did you get started with ZBrush? I got started... well, I mean, I guess I got started because I read about it in a magazine, probably like Imagine FX, or even maybe in... maybe it was even like Advanced Photoshop. Like one of those magazines... When I was younger, I would always go to Barnes & Noble and peruse all the magazines they had and really enjoyed learning different techniques and messing around with graphic design while I was also in college and doing a double major before I decided just to drop out and focus on art completely instead of biology and medicine. So a hobby and the love that was always... my love was originally in drawing, but that eventually filtered into Photoshop very quickly, and then Photoshop eventually led me to wanting to learn 3D, but Maya was always intimidating, and I really could wrap my brain around the idea of clay. I'd sculpted a bit, you know, by hand, but my brain just always could really conceive in 3D very well, but I just didn't have a medium that really... I'm going to take this off, by the way, this is making me hot. A medium that really allowed me to do it efficiently digitally until ZBrush came along. So I got a job working in digital art and doing laminated surface design for this company called Chiyoda America, which is actually a Japanese company. But I never wound up going to Japan to see their headquarters. Instead, they sent me to Europe to see their European headquarters and get training over there, which was really cool. So that was awesome. So that was my first professional, artistic job. And then that led to eventually me getting kind of burned out from it because it was cubicle work and it was under fluorescent lights. And it was misery for someone like myself. So I had to bail, and that led me to reinvigorate my interest in classical character art and storytelling by going to the illustration masterclass in Amherst, Massachusetts at Amherst College. So it was a 1 week or 2 week course, I forget the exact length, where I got to meet some of the best artists in the industry. I remember I became friends with Michi McKeag there, who's the one who brought me on to Lion King the other year. But there I met just Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell, and I had been going to Illuxicon, which is this awesome sci-fi fantasy art, like high-end painting, auto-saving. This incredible, if you look up Illuxicon online, you'll find it's a fantastic convention of just incredibly classically trained painters and artists, sculptors, that all get together in Pennsylvania, and I happened to live in Pennsylvania, so it was in Allentown at the time. And I would go there, or at first it was in Altoona, and then it moved to Allentown. And I think they still have it now in the Allentown Art Museum. So anyway, it's just an amazing convention. I got to meet a lot of these famous painters and sculptors and artists from all over the industry there. And then they told me about the illustration masterclass, and so then it was expensive. I think it's still around like $2 or $3 grand or more. Maybe it's $6 grand. I forget, but it's not cheap. But you get a good week or two, or whatever, with some of the best artists in the world, and they always have other guests come in and speak. Like we had Neil Gaiman, the author, come in and speak to us, and got to meet him, and super nice guy. So they had just incredible people show up to this masterclass, and you network, and you meet people who work at movie studios and all that too, and artists who work there. So it was incredibly inspiring, and it really got me reinvigorated back into that. And that's where I really was like, I need to learn ZBrush. I need to get serious about this, because I knew that for me, digital was my medium. I wasn't going to be a painter, and I didn't really want to be a painter. Although I think I did want to be a concept artist, and in some ways, I got hired to be a concept artist in 3D on Lion King. Actually, that was my actual title, was lead 3D concept artist. But of course, I was also creating things for production that just weren't able to be implemented in time. But yeah, my interest in ZBrush became so strong that I decided to take 2 courses online with that after the illustration masterclass. And I used my time away from my first big job to just pour into ZBrush with 2 classes at what was at the time called ZBrush Workshops. And I made good friends with the main assistant to Ryan Kingsling there, and he and I became friends. Turned out he grew up in a town not too far away from where I grew up, so it kind of common things, common interests and proclivities and interests all kind of led us to become good friends. And so he petitioned with Ryan to hire me there. So then I wound up getting paid I got a job with them, helping them moderate and teach ZBrush. Primarily me moderating. I wasn't teaching, but I was learning from some of the best masters in the industry, whether they were artists like Chris Costa or Pixologic staff like Paul Gabry. Got to become friends with all those guys and really learn from just digitally sitting at the foot of these masters and learning. So that really ramped up my knowledge of ZBrush even faster. Of course, Will Detry, who's my friend, who was the assistant there, who also helped me get hired there. He just saw how fast I picked up ZBrush and how committed I was to just learning it, and that's how I was able to be offered a job to work with them. And then in turn, that's when I started really learning how to. And even before then, I guess, too, I was always trying to figure out, how do I get paid to learn what I want to learn? And then also just, springboard off of that, and using that knowledge that I was given and paid to acquire, but then use that knowledge to then get a job doing what I really want to do, and then using that to move forward. And so it's all kind of been pyramiding. It's been building on itself for me. And so, anyway, that's how I got started with ZBrush. Sorry, it's a long answer. I think it's crucial for people to learn if they want to get involved in this industry and they want to become more proficient at ZBrush. You got to spend the time. You got to really work hard. look at the best in the industry and imitate them. Also be good at networking. I always give my 3 bullet points for people who want to get started in the industry. It's be exceptional at what you do, be great with people, meaning be able to have conversations about other things than just art and your interests. Working hard is, of course, that's being exceptional. It's just working really hard. And then the third is luck, but I really don't believe in luck. It's you make your own luck in a sense. So luck is, favors the prepared. So, whatever the other phrase is, like opportunity, when opportunity meets preparation, that's luck. So, having a great portfolio then, and being great with people, so that you're just ready for that. You're just waiting for that interview, right? And when you get the opportunity to elevator pitch yourself, you freaking nail it, and then there you got a job working in ZBrush somewhere, and then it's like you're sort of feeding the system. Then you have your portfolio built up with real gigs, not just personal pieces. But often I found too that sometimes you work on projects that you're not proud of them, but it's not like your thing, or you don't really want to do those kind of jobs in the future. Well, then don't put them in your portfolio. You know what I mean? But so we all got to start somewhere. So it's like sometimes you got to take a job you don't really love, but it's putting food on the table, it's paying rent, or it's networking with the right people, and that job will get you somewhere else. So you gotta be tactical about your positioning and how you play the game. Essentially, how you network. You got to be smart business wise. But then that, of course, can lead to bigger opportunities. And so anyway, I kind of figured all that out as I went along, and just understood that so much of life is about who you know, and also what you know, of course. But especially in creative industries, so much of it's about who you know, and how good you are at networking, and how good you are at selling yourself. Because you reach a certain point where you're probably as good as the next guy in general, or you're all capable of the general same thing. But it's because they like you, or sadly sometimes it's internal politics, whatever, that gets you either beaten out or in the door, or continuing to be employed by somebody. So that's often where you've got to be savvy, you got to be smart, you got to be aggressive, but never be cruel or dishonest to your competition or your peers, because that won't get you anywhere fast. In fact, it will get you blacklisted fast. It's a small industry, no matter what. Like, the higher you get in any industry where there's more excellence involved, and there's more, high-end people and work involved in that industry, you're gonna find that it's they all know each other and they all talk. So you never want to say or do anything too stupid or selfish or ignorant or naive, because it could come back to bite you pretty fast, and you can find yourself being walked out the door pretty quick. All right, it's getting there. I feel like it's just a little too cotton ballish. You gotta kind of work on it more, but let's save this where it's at. I think I'll jump over to the shield for maybe another half hour or so, and then I'll be 3 hours in. Where are we going here? Yeah, save over that. That's done. And I think I have the shield in here. Yeah, there we go. So I was thinking of another technique that I could do with this. And I also noticed I missed something here. There's this clip right here that just knocked off that other wing symbol. And there's a bunch of other things I'm just not that happy with looking at the original game assets. So I have another. That was a more rough one before that. There's this one. This is the fresh. Although I noticed too, this kind of squares off the circle. It's not a perfect circle, and that kind of annoys me too. So it'd be nice to have the geometry line up more cleanly with the way I want things to line up. But we'll see. I might just try something else, since I made that alpha. So I made an alpha that took forever last time, that I'm sure pissed off some people, but because it became more of a Photoshop stream than a ZBrush stream. But I created this whole thing as an alpha by tracing over the images that I was working with from the game. So this is the Last Guardian shield, for those who don't know. If you haven't played the game, play the game. Last Guardian's awesome. So this is the shield that the boy acquires very early on in the game. And there's a handle here and two tricos that go in here still. So this is not finished, but spent a lot of time figuring out how to make this relief, and then I forgot about this other method that I was like, why didn't I do that before? So I'm going to try that other method here quick since the alpha's already made. I won't have to annoy anyone with working in Photoshop instead of ZBrush. I could probably just actually do this. Alright, what am I doing here? Let's wait. Actually, I think that's what I want to do. And don't need 4 ways here, just need 2. Alright, blur that. Shoot. Actually, we'll need more resolution though, so I'll do that. Man, that imperfect circle is annoying me. I wonder, because that's what I was thinking too. I could just take a disc, could just take a perfect circle and then extrude it out and then get this shape. Because what I should have been using, I think in this case, this was a poly, as you can see how the corners are in here. This was a polysphere, and what I probably should have used was the regular sphere that they have, which has like the star, like this, yeah, because this has perfect circles. So let's see if we can get to this quicker. Insert. I'm sorry if I'm missing chat. Alright. Sorry, buddies. Sorry, people. I missed a bunch of this. Holy grail of program learning. Okay, let's go back here. Sorry. Missed a bunch of chat. Okay, so that was my ZBrush story. What is this thing? Eduardo, I'm not sure which thing you're talking about. I guess you're asking about this disc, maybe? The mirror? It's a mirror from Last Guardian game. Recreating it. Cubic work sucks hard. I really understand your point of switching your focus from that. Yeah. It was just a job at that point. It was really just my first professional gig being creative, and yeah, they sent me to Europe for a while, which was awesome. So took advantage of what I could and had a good salary for a while. Starting salary, that is. Just kind of grew into ZBrush. I studied architecture and really got deep into 3D programs, but I just quite can't get the grasp for ZBrush. Yeah, ZBrush it's got a weird learning curve. It was my gateway, so that's why it was, I think, easier for me to, just because I was fresh. I had a clean slate with 3D, really. It's probably a personal question. Feel free to omit details. How do you survive a career change without going bankrupt? Good question, Vasquez. How do you survive a career change without going bankrupt? Well, I guess it probably depends on when do you really mean. Do you mean like when I was changing out of the laminate surface design job into going after character artists and that kind of thing? Because it was more of like a shift. It wasn't like a whole like massive industry change. It was like, you know, it was a significant shift, but it wasn't like, it was still, still creative. You know, it was still art. The way I survived was doing other jobs, you know. So to answer your question in short, you know, I had a whole array of other jobs. I worked as a, so again, I worked, so I was doing medicine for a long time. So I was doing, let's see, so I was working in college. I was working in the ER, and that was I always worked. That was the other thing. Like I was never someone to just live off of loans. I always had a job. And of course I did have, you know, some student debt, but not a lot actually. And I always made sure to have a job. My parents gave me a really strong work ethic. You know, they were always like, middle class or upper middle class. We were never super poor, but never super rich either. And I think that was a really good environment for any young person to grow up in, because you learn a lot of things about the way the world works. And, you know, I never really wanted for much at all, but it was still also just a really healthy environment for me to grow up in, as far as understanding the value of work. So survival was maintained at that time when I was younger by, of course, at that time I was commuting, so I was living with my folks during a lot of my college years, which I hated in a sense. Not that I hated my family or anything, but I wanted the full college experience, and I did a semester down in South Carolina, and that just didn't work out for where I went. But still, I think, and maybe in some ways, it kind of kept me out of some trouble that I could have got myself into, being like maybe bringing the wrong girl home, essentially, or like, you know, making things awkward there. It probably kept me out of more trouble than anything. Knowing my own personality when I was younger and being a people pleaser and all that. So whatever. You know, dating's always, for a lot of people, it's rough, no matter what. Whether you're confident or not, when you're young, it's always weird. Anyway, but yeah, so commuting, of course, so living at home when I was in college helped a lot. And then after college, and when I dropped out, it was my junior year, and then I looked toward, working in medicine for a while. So I did a lot of in-home nursing care. I did, after the ER, I did in-home nursing care, working with a lot of elderly folks, and then some of the doctors that I used to work in the ER they stayed friends with me, and so then they recommended me for working with private, like high-end private clients, and that wound up netting me some good gigs with some really great people who are still friends of mine. They're like an aunt and an uncle to me now, really. We keep in touch. We probably don't talk as frequently as I talk with my parents, of course, but good friends and good people, and they. I took care of these folks' elderly father, and that was the last patient that I really worked with, because we got pretty close, and we were all like family by the end of his life, and so I stayed with him his last year or so of life, and that was hard. It was like losing a grandparent in some ways, nearly. So I just said I'm done with medicine pretty much altogether, and I had worked with a bunch of other elderly clients before that. And so that kind of made me say, all right, I really need to shift into making art my career, because that's what I was working on. As I was working, in home nursing care, I was also just being a Photoshop junkie and dabbling with ZBrush and whatnot. But so then they actually, we all loved each other so much. They were nice enough to help me with doing an after-school program. So their church actually had a great after-school program for disadvantaged kids in the inner city. So I worked with their church group to teach kids, helping them with their math, homework, all that kind of stuff after school, and just sort of being like a youth leader, but not really. I was just there to help teach. And so then I would, after they were done with their homework, I would teach them art. So I would teach them like color theory and how to draw, and be up on the whiteboard or chalkboard and showing them basic techniques and all that kind of stuff. And we'll just put on some music, kind of like creating like a mini version of the labs we'd have in college, and then put on some great like soundtracks or classical music and expose them to some new stuff like that, and then have them draw and have topics and like draw this animal or color this thing, this whatever, all these different lessons. And so that was cool. I mean, that was like, I felt like I was doing some good in communities and teaching kids some valuable creative lessons, as well as getting some experience and honing my own art skills at the same time. Because while they would be working on their projects, I'd be working on my own, like on a Cintiq, on a laptop and whatnot. Anyway, so eventually that led to me working at a cafe. Not working in the cafe, sorry, but like before I go into the school program, after school program, I would be at this cafe that I love downtown, and would be working kind of like I'm working now, except it was mostly Photoshop, and I'd be doing a lot of digital painting or texture work. And one of these individuals one of the attendants of the cafe walked by, and she was like, "Oh my God, that work is beautiful! Like, who are you? What do you do?" And I told her I was, I'm an artist and really kind of aspiring to work more in a professional capacity, but right now I'm just, working this after-school program essentially. And she's like, "Well, your work is professional grade. You should definitely apply to work where I work." And I was like, "Thank you very much. Where do you work?" And then that's where I got hired at Toyota America. I beat out 100 people for the job, and it was awesome. I got sent to Europe for a while, and it was awesome. So the initial part was good, and then it became cubicle work, and then it became hell. So, so it was a very like organic kind of finding my way through life. I was discovered, sort of, you know what I mean? Like not really, but sort of in a cafe, just doing my own stuff. And someone saw it and came up to me and basically said, "You should apply for a job." So I'm like, all right. So that was pretty cool. Again, I think that's a testament, though, to me. I knew what I was working on was appealing. Like I knew I had the ability to create things that are aesthetically, visually attractive to people, and understand some of that, right, of how to appeal to someone's senses visually, and then that got them interested in my work, and then that perpetuated onward. And so it's like even at that younger stage in my life, I knew how to appeal to people's senses, and I feel like that's something that I'm still maintaining now. And so the urge there was when I was doing that boring job of working at Toyota America, I eventually had to figure out how to pivot to work as a character artist, to work in ZBrush. And it was out of a deep desire to do what I feel like I was born to do, moving toward that, and which is ultimately filmmaking, storytelling in some capacity. But again, it's also about the journey. It's not just about the destination. So that led to me eventually saying, well, I'm so compelled, injured. So for those who don't know, who joined later, my leg. That eventually led to me pushing hard enough to migrate out of that job and move toward learning ZBrush. Well, and then so I did some. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think I did much waitering because while I was doing in-home nursing care, if I'm not mistaken, I was also doing waitering. Probably was after in-home nursing care, I think. Yeah, because eventually I was just like, medicine's done. I'm doing something else, working toward the arts. So yeah, I was working in waitering for a while. That's how I survived. I was still living with my folks. Toward my mid-20s and going toward late 20s. Wasn't happy about it. Only because I wanted my independence, really, but was also like, yeah, it was financially hard. Wasn't gonna lie. So I just had to bite the bullet and be like, well, I still live with my parents. Want to come back to my parents' place? No, of course not. So that was like, but I think having some of those elements kept me focused and kept me like hungry. You know what I mean? As far as like for what I want to do with my life and what I was aiming to do, and so that meant that I had to stay on it. Like Steve Jobs said, right? Stay hungry, stay curious, stay hungry, whatever. So yeah, I was really just I was sacrificing certain things that other people were enjoying because I knew that my pursuit was something much bigger and longer term, and I knew what I was capable of. I just knew I needed the right opportunity to come my way, or for me to find it, right, and pursue it. And I even did interviews up in New York and interview with some advertising companies like the Kaplan Fowler Group. They wrote this book called The Power of Nice. Awesome group of people. They had they're the ones who helped invent the Aflac duck. So I interviewed with them, and I think at that time I was just kind of naive. I think if I would have just pursued that a little bit more, I would have got a job with them because they liked I even created like a little a funny storyboarded commercial, full like I think it was 15 or 30-second commercial spot. All storyboards, and it's on YouTube somewhere. I have to find it. It's on another channel, not my main one. And it was all just telling the story of how, because I think they had a goat in one of their commercials. They had a goat, the Aflac goat, for just that one shot, and one commercial, and it was really funny. And so I thought we should bring that character back. And so I merged the Aflac duck with the Aflac goat, and made a funny little story about them too. So anyway, so I had some other opportunities, interspersed, and I interviewed with some other people. I even networked when I was in jury duty in Philadelphia. I networked with this, I think she did medical advertising, pharmaceutical advertising. And so then she connected me with Juice Pharma, which is really huge, a really huge pharmaceutical advertising company in Manhattan. And so I got an informative interview with them, which was really cool. So I was always looking for like any opportunity I could network with somebody and just schmooze, just do some fun, casual yet keep it classy. Just networking with all these different people of all. I could always relate to everybody because the internet, the ER really helped me interact with all kinds of different people. It forced me to. You had to work with PhDs who are physicians and emergency surgeons, and then you also are surgeons in general. It's not really emergency surgeons so much as there's just surgeons that come down from the OR to work with us. And you got to work with cops, you got to work with social workers, and you got to interact with family members who are losing their loved ones. And you also have to work with criminals, people who are handcuffed to the bed, who are trying to bite you and spit on you and and you have to help them. You have to work with them. So you really have to work with the whole gamut of humanity that comes through the emergency room. Family friends who are very affluent, family friends who are kind of poor. You know, just the whole spectrum of people. So that really helped me, I think, learn to really relate well to people. Of course, you have to learn to relate well on a more educated level with those who are doing business, of course, than just your peers, than just people who are your buddies. You know, so that taught me a lot of understanding different cultures and how to relate to different subcultures, both, you know, from a professional standpoint and personal. So yeah, so I mean, a lot of my life just really was very informative, very helpful. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what to do next year with this. I want to bring it inward. Sorry, Saya. Anyway, so yeah, that's really part of my journey as far as how I started moving things forward. This keyboard's starting to lock up. I don't know why this is doing that. Suddenly, I'm hitting buttons on my... Oh, come on. What is going on? I'm hitting buttons on my Cintiq, and it's doing weird things with the keyboard. I don't know why. Like right now, Shift is not working. Arrgh! I wonder if it's the controller. I have a Xbox controller here. I wonder if that's setting some stuff off. Let me unplug this thing here quick from my PC. I wonder if that's setting things off. I wonder if that's been the whole culprit this whole time. Alright, well, Shift is kind of sort of working. What the hell? And I really would like to know what is causing this, or if it's just that the connection between my old Cintiq and the computer is just going on the fritz. So, like, Shift is not holding now. What is up with that? There we go. Nope. What the hell? Ugh, I love and hate technology. Weird. Okay, let's try this again. And mask this, and then I'm going to shrink the mask. And maybe I need to show the whole thing again. Shrink. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to keep going a little bit less. Sorry, I know you guys are probably hitting up the chat. I'll get back to there in one sec. So what I'm doing now is just shrinking the mask and sharpening it so that I can create a little bit of a sloped area, because the shield, from what I remember, has like a really elegant kind of ridge, and then it slopes down into another area. So it's almost like a slight kind of bowl shape, very gentle inward slope, as you can see there. Okay, and invert that. Shrink it a little bit more, sharpen it, shrink, sharpen, shrink, sharpen. Yeah, I think it's about where we want to be. Maybe grow it a little bit, and then make that as another poly group. Make sure I don't have the other side selected. Yep, okay, group that. And now that lets us select that, center, and blur slightly, and realign, and then move this down a little bit more. And trying to match where the other one was, so I want it close to that. Approximation's fine. Alright, that looks good. Which one do I want to turn off? That's the duplicate. I want to duplicate this now because I like where this is at. Save that as a backup. Turn off the other one. Okay. And because now we got a perfect circle the whole way around here, which is what I was looking for. What else do I want to do? I want to raise this a little bit, inflate this just a little bit. So let me check your chat. Sorry. 2 more seconds. And oh shit. And blur a little bit. So I hope nothing I've said comes off as snobby or arrogant or anything. I don't mean it that way. I just personally, I've learned the value of being able to. Oh wow! I learned that there was a tremendous value in being able to speak with people of the upper echelon in society. That's important. I mean, if you really want to. You want to hobnob and you want to network with the right people. People who have the money, the power, the pull. You're going to be dealing with people who have money, and usually people who have money are often well educated and want to see professionalism from whomever they're working with, and want to understand how to say what you need to say in a very proper diplomatic way, or other times be able to shut up and not say what you want to say. Being able to quickly in real time gauge where and how to pick your verbal battles, so to speak, or verbal chess. That's super important in networking, and you're shaking people who are, whether it's in the ER or whether it's in business meetings or negotiations, wherever. You've got to be savvy. You've got to understand how to speak with. You got to be able to how to speak and think and operate within the circles of people who are millionaires or billionaires. People who have money, power. You don't need to kiss their ass, really, but you do need to know how to speak with each other as equals. That's important. So the power of networking and understanding different cultures and different tiers of society, it's extremely important if you want to be continually successful and continually networking and growing. You've got to also surround yourself with people who are beyond you in many ways in life. That's also extremely important. So there are a lot of elements, I think, that I was learning that I'm grateful for picking up on at a youngish age, and just being exposed to those people, either thanks to my parents who had some affluent friends, more affluent than us, meaning that, like I said, we were just middle class or maybe upper middle class by the end of my time with living with my family. But the desire to better yourself and better educate yourself beyond what college will tell you. Universities only tell you so much, but there's a lot of nuance and personal growth that happens in life, that should happen in life, that college will never teach you. You probably could take classes in, etiquette classes and that kind of thing, classes that were designed to help you become an executive in some way, but there are certain levels of just class and how you carry yourself and how you interact with people that it's important to have. For a lot of people, I think it's very important to have and important to gain, and that can really bring you some amazing opportunities and help you refine certain opportunities or interests or further relationships, business relationships. So those are all crucial, I think crucial to personal growth and success. So yeah, a certain level of sophistication and how you interact with people will take you far, I think. Okay, so anyway, that was a long answer to a question, and so I just prepared a new shield here, a new base, and now I'm going to use a alpha to pull out some detail here in a minute, and we're going to do some group loops and some other cool things here. So I want to save this quick. I think I had this over here. Yeah. And call this whatever. Call this revised. That. All right. Sorry. So let me get to your chat. I know there's a bunch of stuff in here now. Try to move through it quickly. But your art journey sounds really interesting. Teacher, how does the model carved in ZBrush directly introduced into the game? Not sure exactly what your question is. I can't read your name. Sorry, that's in Chinese characters, I think. Might have to rephrase your question. How does the model carved in ZBrush directly introduce the... You mean how do you import it into a game engine? I'm not sure. So you never go into Gnomon. Joe, no, I've taught a workshop for Gnomon, but no, I never attended Gnomon as a student, no. But I would recommend them. I think that because a lot of professionals have taught there and do teach there, and they teach pretty damn good classes. You get the Holy Grail programming, I saw that. Do you know any reference charts for hairs? Reference charts for like, what do you mean? Like just all different types of hair and how to make them, or referencing for just having a nice template of just all the different types of human hair or animal hair. I'm not sure what kind of, any reference charts for hairs. Maybe you want to clarify that question, David Lee. Help me refine that question so I know how to guide you. You're like a shining example of the right attitude, getting results, and opening doors. Keep up the good work. Vasquez, thanks, dude. Nice of you to say. I try. I mean, like I said, Conan had this. If you guys ever watched Conan O'Brien, he had just a phenomenal attitude. Like, what a class act in being kind of just kicked out and kicked off the Tonight Show after getting it and then losing it and then getting and all that crap with. I love Leno and I love Conan. I love them both. I just think it was rough. It seemed on Conan that he got booted the way he did. If you guys have watched, I always watched the Tonight Show and I always watched like Entertainment Tonight and all that stuff. I was like born to be in this industry in some ways because I just eat it up like a fanatic. Even since I was a kid, I knew actors' names and directors' names. I was just a weird kid that was just sort of destined to be a part of this industry in some way. But anyway, all that to say that Conan's sign off was just very touching and very mature and just beautifully, just perfectly executed. You can look it up on YouTube, but Conan's farewell on the Tonight Show was just a class act, grade A example of how to maturely, professionally, like above reproach, leave a position, which in a sense he had it stripped from him, really. So he was basically almost like it's sort of say he was fired, I guess. Which is horrible because it seemed very unjust. It seemed extremely unjust. But he left with such a above board attitude, so no one could fault him for it. And look at his success now. But so he said essentially through tears and a very emotional, genuine farewell, he just said, make sure that to be kind, to always just do the best work, work hard, be honest, be kind, and it will come back to you. And that's a paraphrasing. He said it much better and more elegantly in a longer sentence. But I just thought, man, what a class act. Like, if there was ever an example to lead by and to leave off on such a great note, and, and not placing himself at all in a victim mentality of being like, woe is me, but just such a classy way of just saying, farewell, to, basically saying the anger, like the great Yoda phrase, right? Like the anger will just lead down a bad path. That being upset with injustices or wrongdoings towards you, it doesn't, seeking revenge or seeking to be just vengeful and angry, it's really only hurting yourself in the end, And so he just left with such a great sign off there. I just love that, and I think that that's such a great example of how an attitude you have to have in life, where you've got to stay focused on the positive. You've got to stay focused on, as I've always said when I moved here, this was my mantras, focus on possibilities, not limitations. So many of us, and I struggle with this daily, but I still realize, like, if you don't try, you will always fail. If you don't focus on the possibilities of what you're capable of or what you can do, and it's just, but I don't know if, but, you got to stop looking at the buts, right? You got to stop thinking, like, oh, but this could happen, or like, but it's probably useless to try because this will be in the way, or there'll be this roadblock, or even if you make it this far, then they'll probably still try to take this away from you. And it's like, you can't focus on all that, though. You just got to do the work, do your best, kick ass, take names, and just put out the positive, like, be above reproach. Don't come out swearing and cursing out the people that maybe did you wrong, or you think you're enemy, or even that are your enemy, or that want to be your enemy, that hate you. Being above that, I think, and trying to just put out the best of you and the best that the world can see to learn from, as well as to grow yourself, even though it may be painful, right? To eat your words sometimes, to bite your tongue, to withhold from what might be even righteous anger, what might be justified, will get you further in life and will also help you be a better example to those who are following your trajectory than to be the opposite and just sort of satiate that human urge, which is just to be enraged or be upset or to lash out, and be such a classless, horrible example of what somebody who maybe had something wrong done to them or just not getting what you want in life. It just, that's such a horrible example for to lead by or to show others what to do. And even having discussions like this on Facebook the other day, even earlier today with some friends who were asking if it's okay to call out artists and shame them about certain things they said that they don't like. And I'm like, I mean, it's okay to call someone out if they're doing something wrong, maybe privately is the best way to do it, not just to go out publicly, because then it just becomes a yelling match. And then it's like that phrase, when you see a fool arguing with when a wise person's arguing with a fool, it's hard to tell from a third party's perspective. It's hard to tell who the fool is. You know, if you're arguing with an idiot and the idiot's yelling back at you and you're still engaging that idiot, eventually it just looks like two morons yelling at each other because that idiot's trying to dragging you down with a dumb argument, right? So it's better to disengage from that or just not engage at all, right, in the first place, and just to be above that and lead by example. You know, a kind answer turns away wrath. All those kind of basic principles. That's how I was raised. That's how I think. I don't always succeed at it because I'm human, but I think that those ideals are what will take people further, and I say that from experience. Anyway, so do you know any reference charts right here? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. If you can clarify that. Does your interface have differences from the standard? Yes. My UI is custom. Feel free to look at it and sort of, you know, use it for your own benefit, if you want to standardize, or change your standard UI. So David Lee saying, please share your thoughts. I hate these projects which you just don't hit your heart. This party life kept mine still in my portfolio because those models were efficient, not beautiful. Employees see how I work with the basic stuff. Have you had any bad situation on your past jobs? Yeah, I just named, everyone has jobs they hate. Depends what kind of job and what kind of situation. But yeah, everyone has rough moments, but I try not to really, talk about them much because it doesn't really do any good. And if you're not being treated fairly at a job, I think it's just time to leave. Just do your best to network as fast as you can to get the hell out of there, and just tell them to eat dust. To that question, if you feel uncomfortable to share. By the way, Tuesday is going to be your new slot. Is Tuesday going to be your slot? Would be great since it means I could get some sleep on Wednesday. Technically, my Thursday. Yeah, Tuesday is going to be my new slot. I've been moving away from Wednesdays, so yeah, it's going to be Tuesdays and Sundays right now for me. And I'm going to try to be streaming more on my own stuff here soon, like on my own channels as well. Probably try to do that more and more, actually, because I'm always working on different stuff now, and a lot of it I can share. Some stuff for my short, especially like this. Sorry, I'll be getting back to sculpting in a minute for anybody who's like, what the hell? Just try to go through the catch up through the chat. Do you know any reference charts for hairs again? Okay. Yeah, so Vasquez is hitting it. Like sculpted hair or fiber mesh, good practice is to look at the flow of clumps and trace that. Yeah, sculpted hair. It's kind of hard for me to. Okay, sculpted hair. Looking at collectibles, especially grade sculpts. Yeah. Also look at classical sculptures. I'll show you my. I think I have Cupid here still open. I just won't be working on it today. But here's an example. If you just wanted to look at how I did some hair. It's not. I don't think it's the greatest hair ever. But I looked at classical sculptures and kind of saw how they did it. And this is it's not the greatest thing ever, but it's a way of doing hair, and it's a way to just sort of show you how hair can flow and how it can look. That's the female hair. Here's the male hair. It was done very quickly too. This was all done extremely fast. Everything was all done in like a few days. The entire sculpture. So don't judge me on it being like it's not my absolute best work, but for sculpted hair, I was happy with the way this turned out, and the 3D print turned out pretty good too in the end. But this was usually just this was just using the rake brush. So what I did was, if I remember correctly, I think I just used an alpha like this, yeah, and then starting with like a sphere. Let me get the sphere here. Turn off this for a second, Sculptress, and then I just sort of got to subdivide here. Get this up there. All right. Whoa, too far. Go one up. Okay, 6 million is more than enough. All right, so like, this is just a really simple, easy, kind of classical way of getting some hair flow. You don't like that? You want more detail, for instance, you can go in here into alpha modify. Anti-aliasing can help a little bit. When it's just high frequency, or when it's just high resolution, it probably doesn't matter much. Surface doesn't really matter either, but what am I looking for here? I want to tile it, sorry, horizontally. So yeah, just tile it like once or twice and you get a higher density right there. You get finer hairs. And then if you want to add some randomness to it, just kind of go over it again, add some more randomness to it. You know, it's not the perfect solution, but it's a solution. And you can do things like this to get some hair going. And this is how I was doing a lot of some of the other work, essentially. And maybe use different alphas, I forget. But I think that's sort of, you know, that's how you can get some of that flow going. And anyway, so it's a technique for sculpting hair. Getting back to the shield. Sorry, I'm going to go through the last bit of chat here. Toy companies floating from stylized hair. Yeah. Sometimes my express key remote buttons get stuck. Pressing the same button again usually fixes it for me. Yeah. If you spilled something on your keyboard, you know, I might have had like a little water drip on there, and I wonder if that, yeah, just for like sweat from a cup. I wonder if that had probably done something. Clean out the lint from the buttons. Might be getting stuck because of the lack of cleaning. Yeah. Yeah, I need to confess. Yeah, no, not on this machine, man. Not now, not ever. No. No. This would be water. This would be water from like cool cups. Purely water. I actually remember a couple times where I like had spilled a little bit of this water. Or anyway, yeah. I'm always drinking water, coffee on here. Words to live by, man. Thanks for sharing that. Nathan Walker. Sure. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I try to say good things. Nice bruises, Dan. Yeah, you're seeing my bruises. You seeing what? Is that what you're saying? Like all that scarring? Yeah, that's from my wreck. My sister met her husband waiting tables there. Okay, so Edmonds, your sister met her husband waiting tables there. Sorry, whose husband? My sister met... Oh, you mean her own husband. Sorry, duh. Wow, brain fart. Okay, your sister met her husband waiting tables. Okay, waiting tables where? At Olive Garden? Because then I moved on to a bunch of other no-name, you know, I mean, they're just like single, like standalone, no chains after that. I just worked fine dining, so I was like you know, one-off restaurants for a while. It's never too far. Subdivide. Ref the Conan. Okay, ref the Conan story. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Conan's story. I thought was just so cool. I was really respected that. I forever burned into my brain. Even though I knew this principle since I was taught that too. I just love that he said it in such a massive platform. Yeah, because I think there really are genuinely good words to live by, and I think a lot of people could learn a lot from living by them. It'd be good for a lot of people to live by them. That's what I mean. Anyway, all right. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here is use a alpha that I made already and turn it into... Oh, shit, wrong one. This one. Okay. Oh, wait, but that's different, right? Yeah, this is the one I want. Okay. I think I'll delete that. Duplicate this. All right. Okay. So there's this other technique that I completely forgot about until I was like thinking about it more and looking up other videos in the past. You can take an alpha. First of all, you want to make your focal shift negative 100, so it's maximized. I'm going to import the alpha I made last time, if I can find it. Where did I put that thing? There it is. Okay. I'm not 100% happy with this, but it's good enough. Oh, I got that tiling on. Turn that off. And we can do... I think we'll have to do this. Oh, no, there's one that is... Oh, isn't there one that's like... It comes from the center? Which one is it? Or is that only with... Is it this? Maybe that's how I have to do it. With a mask this way. I forget. Let's see. So then, yeah, there's this. So then you say center square. I I think that's correct. So then it should always work from the center of where you draw this. So then if we use this, I think I need more density, so subdivide up. Let's go for a big one here. Let's do like 8 million. Okay, so then I want to find the center of this thing. Oh wait, derp. Gotta be holding. Another good way to find the center without this confusion, to be a little bit more certain, is to simply... Oh god, yep, that shift is sticking. You're right, it's probably that. It's probably freaking short circuit. Let's use something else here to do this quick. We turn off add, we use color, and then we turn on symmetry. Getting really close to the center here, and then use a bright ass color. Actually, first we want to do gray and fill object, and then we do bright red. Bring this down tight, and it's fine. All right, center it. All right, and use that as our target. And I might need to go a little bigger. Yeah, it's probably too big. So I'm just using this kind of like the crosshairs for where the center is to help when I'm this far away from there, and I'm not going to have symmetry on because this alpha needs to be asymmetrical because of the center piece. Alright, so now we hold this, turn on the alpha here, and how do we get that? Darn it. Was it that I was holding Control Shift? What is going on here? This freaking keyboard. Yeah, come on. Work with me. Oh, what thing was it that had that? Why is that not a... Why is that not showing up now? What the hell? Because it gave me square and center as an option. And now it's not. Why? Okay, because it's giving me it with this, but that doesn't help. Why is that not enabled with the other, with just control? Oh wait, because I have to do this, right? Is it rectangle? Yeah, that's why. Okay, derp. Sorry, idiot here. Okay. So, let's try to get this as center as I can. Okay. So that should be about right. Now I think the alpha is not perfectly circular. Oh, and I forgot to mask the back here. God damn it! This thing is not. This thing is not being nice to me. Okay, and then this. Get back to regular. Shit. What do we want to do here? Just want to take that off. Okay, so let's say we got our alpha there. We're at high res. So now what you want to do is you want to polygroup this sucker. So we only got that area within this polygroup. So now we hit Control W. Bam, we got our own polygroup. And then if I'm not mistaken, we will group loop these guys together. I'm almost done with this one, but for fun, if you guys want. What else we got in the chat? Damage streaming for 3 hours. Yes, sir. Spotlight now points out to the image center and the mesh center. Oh. Could be useful if you set the pivot point to whatever your center you want. Ah, thanks, man. Just reading that now. Should have looked at it earlier. I'll have to try that. That's another good example, though. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to group loop this. If I'm not mistaken, I think we do it in this at this point. But I'm going to quick save in case I crash it. Whenever doing something that seems a little risky, always quick save. Because you can often lose a bunch of work. Alright, so we want to come to... Oh yeah, this is where we have to... That's the other thing that's unfortunate. We're going to lose our subdivisions. So if I come down... I wonder how far I can go before it starts to really degrade. Because I will be smoothing out the edges here. Eesh. No, I think I do like it higher. Maybe even want to go higher. No. I don't know that I need to go higher res in this. I'm not liking how some of this is like fudged together. Maybe I can go back here and correct that quick, and because I don't have to sculpt all that. I would just rather. I'm trying to think what would be the better option. I can just sculpt that. And whatever. I can sculpt that out. All right, let's go back to where we were. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, so what we're gonna do is group loop. So we got to delete our subdivision levels, and I haven't used group loops in eternity. Where are we looking at here? Edge loop, right? And then we want one loop. And polish, I don't know, we do 20. Do we want triangles? Preferably not. Okay, and we're not doing any panel loops thing. Alright, so group loop. I think that's working. Okay, hopefully it doesn't crash. There we go, cool. Now, if I'm not mistaken, should have drawn, yep. Created a polygroup around where I had masked. So now what we can do is, if my frickin' thing would work, clear that, select just the new polygroup, which now allow it to extrude beautifully, cleanly, and you hold shift and go up, and we've got a beautiful extrusion uniformly, uniform height, like that. Of course, that's leaving a large ring here, so you can insert with that's one way you could use the ZBrush brush to insert, or you can also just do this, where I think if you hold Control and move up one, yeah, okay, so redo that. Yeah, so there's that. I think there's another way. If I extrude a little lower and then just kept extruding, it would add edge loops that way, but then to add some clean edge loops so that it'll slope down without such a drastic, fall off. Holding spacebar, insert, and it's already there. Okay. Tap it once, let it do its thing. I'm going to add a couple more in here just so it allows it to smooth down without going radically too smooth. Actually, another faster way to do this, because I'm just thinking it's all on the same plane. Let me undo that. A faster way to do this is to just select the purple, look at it straight on, and bring in the edge loops this way. Slice curve. Ah, shit. And you can fuck it up like that. Alright. Alright. Spacebar. It's hitting Alt for some reason. And this will add an edge loop the whole way across. All of them at once. And then do it again a few times. And this should bring up some nice edge loops the whole way across all these guys, and allow for some nice smoothing to happen. Just add a few more. It's just hard to really see where it's like pixels are just the entire width of the height of the line. Alright. It's 9:17 here, so I'm going to be calling it a night soon. It's midnight on the East Coast. Alright. I think we got enough edge loops in there now. Sweet. Yep, and that's across all of that at once. And we come back here and reveal everything. And there we are. And turn off polyframe, but keep the colors on. So now we got some really nice clean extrusion coming out of here. It's meant to have that kind of hand etched look to it. For those wondering, it's meant to look kind of messy like it is. It's not meant to look super illustrated and clean. It's supposed to look more like natural, you know, like tribes people crafted this by hand. And let's bring it back to where it was. I still need to bring in the center detail, which I can easily just project back from the previous model, which is why I was lining this up. What else? No other questions for now. Cool. All right. So then the previous shape, and even now when I'm looking back at this other one, I'm like wanting to match. Like this just feels a little too mushy. This feels a little too hand done. So I'm just debating whether I want to create another alpha and just do that off camera here, which I probably will, I think, just so that there's at least a uniformity to it, because I don't want to feel so disparate, so different, and then I also don't want to have to, like, I don't know. I mean, we could see, I can always undo. Let me save this where it's at currently, and then I'll try one idea, and then try another. I'll be wrapping up here soon. Pardon me. Okay. These colors make it look like a Fiesta plate. Oh man. Alright. I'm gonna turn this guy on. Alright, so wait, I was gonna do this projection, that's right. Alright, so turn that on. And that's, is that the one I wanted to use? No. What about this one? This one. Turn that one off. And just for ease, I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Alright, too far. Right there. Alright. And then I'm going to do a simple... so if you guys want to ever like do what I'm about to do, I'll show you here. This is if you want to project something without doing the whole project process, is another nice way of this. Should be simpler, I think, which is just the Z project brush. And you can do it a couple different ways, just like any brush. You can just brush it on, like so. And, oh wait, is that right? Am I doing, no, what's going on? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you can just do it by hand, like this. But you can also use it like other brushes and do the drag rectangle, or you could have symmetry on, which I could probably do for this. So I'll undo that, undo again, and again, and have symmetry. So this is another way you can do it with symmetry on. You have sub on, and here you are creating the same impression from the underlying sculpture. I'm not liking how mushy it's looking, so I'm probably going to try to tighten it up, and I'm going to do that. Because when you turn everything off, it's just, this is so clean, that's so mushy. I'm going to smooth them down, but I still want it to be a little bit closer. And so what I actually might do is actually bring these guys up a little bit more. I do want there to be a little bit more of a noticeable embossment, and this is simply just moving them up. I don't want them to go above this lip, so I can sort of push it beyond and realize, alright, right there is good. Alright, so then with this impressed area, there's this great brush by Ryan, I think Kittleston, right? Ryan's tools, and he's got the amp detail brush. So it takes a second to kick in, but you select that, and it will just sort of amplify the extremes. So the depths, I think, as well as the height, if I'm not mistaken. Turn off dynamic, and keep that on, and see what this. Let's see how this works. Should amplify it. I mean, I might need to pinch it together. It still might not be exactly what I need for this. It doesn't really seem like it's almost doing anything here, actually, which is a bummer. I was expecting it to kind of tighten it up a bit. Let's turn up the detail. Is that really doing anything? So what I want it to do is more like just to tighten those lines up, a little less mushy. This does look kind of shitty though. I really don't like how it's just kind of like I was sort of guessing as things were coming along, and it really doesn't feel just right. It just feels a little too. So what I should be doing is kind of imitating like one of these and sort of stamping it perfectly the whole way around, so it has some of that uniformity. So that's probably what I'm going to do here instead. So the way I'll do that though is undo here, get back a bit, and then do a morph target. So I'll use one as an example. And I think I'll also probably use polypaint to use as markers. But then there's another way I could do it too. What are you guys saying? Thank you, gotta go. Joe, take care, dude. If you're still here, take care. Thanks for coming by. You too, man. Stay safe. What am I working on? Hanny is asking. I'm working on the shield from The Last Guardian video game, The Boy's Shield. I'm recreating that for a short that I am working on currently. It should be done this summer. Alright, I'm doing that. Moving forward in time, back one. Okay. So let's try this again. Interesting. Did scale change? Or did I change it? This damn thing. Pretty close. Interesting. I did think I did warp that alpha a little bit. Maybe that's what I did. Let's see here. If I just do. That's okay. Where are we at? 9:30, 9:25. Interesting. It's like that, but the ring is larger outside. I wonder if I should have increased the size. Probably should have, I guess, because I matched that up last time correctly. Well, not too hard to do. I can fix that quickly here. Just gotta hide all the right polygroups. Okay. Invert, mask, show all, and then unsolo and scale up. And voila. That works. Good enough. Smooth some of that out later. That works. Alright, so now getting back to... It matches better that way, it makes more sense. Ah. Okay. I think you have to do it again. How did it work? How did what work? I think we're good. I think things are looking alright. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. Here's another thing we can do. Let's see if we can get in close enough to even see. That's a hard thing with transparency. It's like you really can't see through very well. I wonder if I make this another color, if that would help. So I fill this with red, for instance, and then come back down to this thing. Now it's transparent, still transparent. It doesn't really take that color into much account. Boo. Oh well, let's see here. There's a couple things we can do. So, for instance, that circle is kind of a perfect circle. Right here. It's just slightly below their toes. So, what we can do is head over to our select lasso. We're looking right there. So we want to do that guy. Okay, so then we can expand that. So we say shrink. And I'll do a couple more edge loops to kind of widen that. So it creates a nice crevasse. And let's see here, there's another circle we want to do. We want to do it the same height. And it's this guy, but it also branches out. So I can just do part of it and let the top part be something I'll hand touch later. So then that's right here. And so go back here and say right about here. Nope. Crap. Edge. Did I get it? Yeah. Alright. And since I already expanded the other one, I just gotta do this by hand. How many edge loops did I get with the other one? I think, yeah, I got a few more. 2 more. Shit, hit the polygon. Come on. And where's the other one looking at here? Whoa, too close. Alright, I want to go down one here then. Inward. Shit. There we go. Good. Alright. Yeah, good enough. So, turn off polyframe. Invert this guy. Shit. Invert, come on. Tap. Nope. Okay. We're going to do this way then. Alright. There. Invert. Polygroup. Alrighty. Use those to mask. And we're going to shrink mask. And again. Alright, one more time. Get that smooth gradation. And this is actually kind of taking it a step further than the ornate elements. And then we push it down by holding shift. Make sure we're not doing anything on the other side. We aren't. There goes a cop car outside. And there we go. We got our perfect circles embossed into the disc in a much cleaner way than before. So as an example, this one versus that one. Yikes. Bright red. There we go. So yeah, much better, much cleaner. Significantly better. And then I'll do the same thing for the whole ring around here. The same technique I did for the center one, I'm going to do for the outer ring. And we'll kind of be back to where we were, except in a better place, faster and cleaner. And I got to add the handle and a few more innate things like little triangles around here and whatnot. But it's back. It's a lot faster, but of course it helped because I had the alpha done from last time. So anyway, yeah, in a good place. Here, let me save before I sign off. There we go. All right, guys, ladies and gents. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope everyone had a good time. If anyone has any last questions, please feel free to fire away. If you scroll up, you got my social media stuff, if anyone's wondering. If you scroll up in the chat. But in case for anyone who joined late, here's my IG. Can you always take a snapshot of the model and use... Oh, wait. You can always take a snapshot of the model and use the fill modes in the draw menu to control opacity between reference. Ah, interesting. Yeah. Take a snapshot of the model and use the fill mode in the draw menu to control opacity between reference and model. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. Thank you. There's always multiple ways of thinking and doing things in ZBrush, like Photoshop. You always have multiple options for taking care of what you want. So, I'm saying Ruiz. I'm combining your names. Vasquez, thank you for all your pointers. I always appreciate them. Because there's so many ways, I often forget that there's probably easier or faster ways for certain things. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for everything. If you guys want to keep in touch, follow up. I am at Daniel Fine Arts on Instagram, and my email is Daniel. Whoa! Just logged out of that. Let's try this again. Sorry, one sec, guys. Just want to finish this up. What is the... I don't know why it just logged me out of the chat there. That was annoying. Let me find the right thing to relog into the chat. So many things are set up weird on the back end. There we go. Okay. What? Oh. Oops, missed one character. Alright, that looks right. Ah, and then the CAPTCHA. Gotta verify you're human. Alright, what's going on here? Sorry guys, I should just sign off and say bye. But I want to see if there's anything listed in the end of the chat. Alright, let's see if this works better. Alright, I don't know what's going on here. The chat is not working right. Anyway, okay. It's off for now. I'll fix it later. Thanks, guys. Take care. And sorry if I missed any questions at the end or anything. I will look for them. And feel free to email me, Daniel at lion-arts.com, if you have any other questions. So, all right, take care. Thanks a lot.